Was I just muted then? I think I was muted then, wasn't I? How are you doing, Axelty? I hope you're well. I thought it unmuted then, but I guess not. Yeah, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well, my friend. I hope you're doing well. No. I was trying to stream the other day, and my connection was not very good. Oh God, hit my microphone. Sorry. I wasn't able to stream because of the connection. But Axelty, it feels like it's been quite a while. How have you been? Yeah, no. I already said that, didn't I? I thought. See, I'm trying to remember what I said and how much it was said when it was muted. I've been very. I've had a lot of like nervous energy lately. I've had a lot of like creativity in my head, and the desire to want to do something with it. I'm currently working on a home project myself, and I'm also I'm trying to do more active stuff with acting. I'm trying to get active representation for an agency representation, which is requiring a lot of research, and it's not easy to do because a lot of it is all like companies within companies. But I made a list before stream, actually, a bit before stream, of just all the things which I currently want to do at the moment in life, and I've written them all down on a list. I'm like, okay, let's try and work our way through all of these. Let's just take a few of them and do one of them a day. So I want to get back into rock climbing because it's been a long time since I've done any kind of rock climbing or bouldering, and so I'm gonna, after a stream probably, I'm going to I found a place nearby me actually which does it, so I'm gonna see if I can get a what are they called? Inductions, I guess? An induction, because they won't let you do it there unless you had an induction already. So yeah. But I'm gonna be doing that. I think it's good to keep active, which might mean less streams, but if I do it during the day, I guess it wouldn't be an issue. But yeah. I have found studios and such and agencies in the UK which I may potentially be able to get signed up with. However, a lot of them are like, oh, you need to have an account on Spotlight, which is an aggregate site for what actors can post their profiles on, or and a lot of them are also asking for a film reel, which I don't have. I've looked into it in the past beforehand, and there are places which will make film reels for you. Oftentimes, it can cost a fair bit, like £200-ish, so it's not cheap by any means. But yeah, I think if that's what needs to be done, I guess I'll need to do it. What I can do in the meantime is I can work on like a voice reel as well, because I found some voiceover stuff. So I don't know if you've heard, there's been a lot of stuff going on with the American VO sphere at the moment, where a lot of actors have not been able to work on games and such due to this SAG-AFTRA strike, which has actually become a bit of a ruse, as it's turned out, and it's not been well handled at all. And there's a lot of people who have been part of SAG-AFTRA but have not liked it. SAG-AFTRA is just a pretty shitty company, or they're meant to be a workers' union, but in typical American fashion, I don't think they understand how unions are meant to work. So it doesn't seem to have the best interests of any of its talents in mind, which sucks. Or any clientele, talent, and they're not a talent management agency, they're a union, so there's a difference. If it was a talent agency, there would be talent. If it was a union, it would be, I guess, like, union members, really, just the term for it. It's a whole mess. If you looked into it, you'll understand why. But thing is, that's actually kind of led to like a lot of games companies and other things. I'm sure they're like advertising work they still have available. Maybe, I actually don't know about that. A lot of companies are kind of going outside to like places like London. I don't live in London nor near London, but the thing of voice work is that it can be remote. Yeah. And so there are places I could potentially get some work in like, and I found like a company which does them. I don't know if they take on people to work for them, or you just need to get signed up to them through an agent, which is like a gateway, right, for a lot of like acting stuff. A lot of them like, oh, you need an agent. It's like, oh, well, we don't know who you are. Though I think I mentioned a while ago. I don't know if you were here whilst I've mentioned before, Axolotl, but I contacted a guy a while ago who's in charge of a lot of like audio reading stuff, I guess, for some companies, and he gave me a lot of very helpful advice. He was very supportive as well, actually. He was like, not like, psh, who's this guy? Who's this guy coming in here trying to get involved in the what a fucking pillar, get involved in the industry. We don't know anything about you. No, he was very nice, very supportive, very kind. Yeah, and I'm like, man, he actually wants people to do well, because, and it makes sense, right? You want people to be good and do well because you want good people to work on your projects, right? It's like, wait a minute, that makes total sense. But then there's also a lot of elitism. From my understanding, if anything, this has kind of showed it even more, this whole SAG-AFTRA thing. There's a lot of very much elitism and cliquism, cliques in the American voiceover sphere. Which is rather disappointing. And this has been a known thing for a while, right? But I think it's been highlighted further by this, with people like picking on other actors and stuff, and it's like it's really not good. It's really not a good look at all. There are actors who have basically had a go at other actors for taking roles when they didn't even know about any kind of strike action going on, and it's like, well, you're not working, so, and like your roles are not protected under SAG-AFTRA's rulings about it, so I don't understand what you're doing. And you know, then it turns out, oh, a lot of these like gacha games, which are being like all the Hoyo games and stuff like that, a lot of them were actually not even taking part in roles and stuff. But yeah, the thing is, essentially it means like there's a lot more work available outside of America now. It's always basically been like America or Canada for voiceover roles. The UK has always been rather limited on it. Okay, obviously advertisement, right? I think I was talking about this with Lamette the other day when she was in, but voiceover roles, it's not all glamorous, right? It's not, oh, I'm going to be in a TV show, I'm going to get, no. A lot of the time, it'll be like advertisements, like radio, it'll be voiceovers for TV. You'll also get stuff for like dubbing over foreign films, like, as in like live action films and stuff. Like, a little bit, oh, I'm only a voice actor, and get involved in anime. But no, it doesn't happen. It's very rare for that to happen. But, you know, it doesn't mean there's not work to be found. Yeah, again, a lot of voiceover thing. And, you know, even for like weird things, like I'm sure, like, I don't know, work training courses, I guess, is a market for. You know, a lot of people do work training courses, and it's like, hey, we need someone to be able to record these things or like act in them. I was like, okay, you do need, I imagine it's not like actual like worker employees involved in those things, it's actors involved. And your audiobooks as well are a huge thing over here. Audiobooks have always been big over here. But a lot of TV shows are kind of limited. A lot of, mainly to like children's TV shows like Peppa Pig and the like. Not that they're bad at all to get involved. I heard there's some recent thing with Peppa Pig apparently. I can't remember what it was. Didn't like there a new character coming in, a new member of the family? I don't know. I heard that was like not drama, but like a big announcement recently. There's not a lot of game. I feel like it's grown recently though, over the past like decade or two. You know, a lot of games obviously being based on like European fantasy and stuff want like British actors in them, or at least people who can do a British accent. It's always kind of weirded me out in Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls in general when it's very high medieval fantasy, and you have like these British people and then American people all in the same place. It's like, what's going on here? And it doesn't seem to be differentiated dependent on where people are geographically. It just happens. It's like, this is the actors they had on hand, and it's like, well, it kind of takes me out of it a bit. But there's so many other things in the Elder Scrolls games that take you out of it mechanically that I think that's the least of our problems. I know, like, so obviously, like, Elder Scrolls Oblivion got a remake just last month, I think it was, and there are like, I don't know if any of the lines got re-recorded or anything. There are a lot of old lines in that game which were really badly done. And I don't just mean in terms of like acting quality. I mean like people recorded lines. And okay, so there's a really famous one with this old lady who's talking to you, and she's talking, and then she fubs the line, and then it's like, oh crap, and then just starts the line over again, and it's like, and they didn't take that out of the game. I don't know if it's in the remaster. That was in the original game. And it's like, holy, how did you miss that? And it's like, damn, did like the audio guys not care? Did not do the job? The only thing I can imagine is that if she did not give enough of, so okay, when you're doing audio, right, you'll be reading the audio bar, right, the visuals, the audio visuals, and there will be potentially, normally when you're reading lines, you make a slight break between lines so that it's easier to edit out. I can only imagine the break she gave here was not long enough for the audio engineer or whoever was in charge to notice it, and so they kept it in. But even then, they should have listened to the line in full anyway, so I don't know why that happened. If anything, it just seemed incompetence on the audio engineer's part, which, wow. That guy was probably not very good at his job. But yeah, it's summer now. Maybe I should get a drink out for this, because it's summer. I have some water on hand. But yeah, there's a lot to do. Will all of it work out successfully? I don't know. You, Summer? Hi, Lamette. How you doing, my dear? Hope you're well. I think summer is nice. Not all the time. Is it sad? Okay, let's go say that's kind of sad to say. Actually, I don't want to say that. You know, I want to say it's like I have like a lot of like fantasies of all the things I'd like to do in summer. Like you all like, oh man, I'll go on a big group holiday in summer. I always thought those were very fun and endearing, and all these things I really wanted to do, and I just never got to do them. I don't know if I ever will. I hope one day to be able to. You see why it's kind of sad. It's like, but I don't know. I don't dislike summer. Now, obviously, I don't live in like a majorly hot country. England can get hot. It can get very hot when it wants to. It doesn't want to a lot of the time. It's nice in concert, but it's just too hot. I think there's something lovely about sitting out on a summer's day reading a book. When there's like a cool breeze. If it's just like humid, I don't like that. And it's dry and there's no wind. That's unpleasant. But I think there's something nice about it. So maybe it is the concept. Yeah, actually, maybe you're right on that. I enjoy summer though. I'm trying to get out a bit more, so maybe I'll be experiencing more summer. It's another thing though where it's like I don't have much to do. There's a lot of things you can do in the world, but like I feel like a lot of it is difficult to do unless you have people around you to do it with, which is more my problem than anything else. And it's like, what's the point in going out when there's no one around to experience the world with, I guess. So I guess I'll just have to do things by myself. But even then, it's like I think there's still a lot to like in summer. There's a lot of cool events which happen. But I get the heat thing. I don't mind it, considering a lot of the time, at least in England, it's very wet and rainy and cold. So I'm okay with that. I've even bought some new clothes for the summer, and I'm like, wow, I'm trying to be fashionable. Though I also bought a waistcoat, which is generally not very good summer wear, just because it's, you know, it's an extra layer on top of things. But maybe I should just get like a very thin shirt to go with it. I don't know. Maybe something like what are they called? What are they called? This thin shirt, the regular thin. I don't know. I know the trade weather, please trade weather. It's what's the weather outside? I'm just looking out my window now. Okay, so I live in the warmest room of my house, right? I live in the warmest room of my house, so it gets really hot over here. And in the past, when I've been streaming before in summer, I've tended to avoid it, and I've been thinking maybe it'd be better to do it later at night over time now, or in the evening, just because I can go out in the day and actually experience something, which would probably be better for my health in the long run. and not have to stream when it's super hot in my room, when it's like very cool, when it's cooled down in the evening. I would share it with you both if I could, but I cannot do that. The gods will not let me. 'Tis beyond me. For shame, truly 'tis shameful. But I honestly don't mind summer. I don't. Okay, is it? I don't know if I have a favorite season. Is that weird to say? I think there's positives and negatives to it all. I think I like winter conceptually, but I think there's a lot of problems with winter, namely the sun the thing is, you complain about this now where it's like, oh, it's too hot and the sun's out too. When it gets to winter, everyone will just complain about the sun being gone now, and it's like, oh, it's 3 o'clock and the sun's gone. It's so depressing and miserable, and like, you can't win, right? And a lot of people love autumn, but I don't Halloween, yeah, I don't know. I've never been a Halloween guy. I used to do trick or treating with my family, but yeah, I've not done it in years. I don't really do anything for it. I don't know anyone who does anything for Halloween, right? So it's just kind of like, okay. If anything, it's like, oh, this is the season where they'll have like Halloween themed chocolates available. Spring is nice. I think if you don't have hay fever, it's actually, I went out today to buy some new clothes. Not the other clothes I bought. This is a new clothes. Just need some shorts. I'm gonna start rock climbing again soon, so I need to go out. I think my voice cracked. I need to go out and get some. But I keep sneezing, and I think it's just there's a lot of dust in the air. I don't think it's just because of the heat, and I'm recognizing more. There is actually pollen which is affecting me, but I don't really get like sneezy and such. So who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. I don't ascribe to a certain season being the best season. I think there's positives and negatives to all of it. In the end, it's just life. It's just life as Persephone fucks off to her mother's house for a few months. And then goes back to the Deathlands for another few months. Did you know that's the entire... A lot of people know the story of Hades taking Persephone, but that entire story was all done as basically an origin story for the seasons. It is essentially a creation myth. It's a creation myth where to explain why seasons happen. Where when it's spring and then summer, it's when the land is beautiful and bountiful, and that's because Persephone is reunited with her mother, the harvest goddess Demeter. When it's autumn and winter, it's when she goes to the underworld to be with her husband, the King Hades, and yeah, everything starts dying, and Demeter gets really sad and depressed, so everything starts dying because of that. But yeah, I think that's a fun story. Yeah, is there ever a best time of life to be alive? I don't know. I think I understand I sound like really like depressing when I say that. I'm like, is there a best time to be alive? I don't know. I just think, do the things which affect you in one season really affect your general course in life? I don't know about that. Though I guess a lot of it is more just like the feelings and the aesthetics and the general vibes it gives off a lot of the time for these seasons. You know, a lot of people kind of, in spring, you know, a lot of people might love the concept of like, oh, everything's blooming back into life. All the little lambs are being born. All the flowers are in bloom. All the birds are banging. Is that what animals do? It's spring, right? No, do they give birth then, or do they bang? I don't. Humans are interesting creatures in that humans don't do that. Human reproduction cycles are not limited to seasonal things. We're one of the few creatures on the planet which can do that. I think that's rather interesting. I think it's a very interesting thing that humans aren't really affected by that. And like any kind of studies to indicate that human like hormonal cycles or like breeding cycles, I guess, might be affected by the seasons have proven inconclusive. So that's interesting. Also, here's something I never knew until a little while ago. So everyone knows a lot about like the female hormonal cycle, and it's a big deal, and it kind of sucks basically. Men have one as well, which happens basically every 24 hours. So we're basically speedrunning. It's the male hormonal cycle is just males do have one, but it's just much quicker than women. So I think that's very funny. It's often also used to explain why men can potentially get morning wood, because it's like the peak of the cycle and then it drops down in terms of arousal at the release. Sure, the best time to be alive is when a day is somehow nice. You know what? I kind of like that, actually. The best time to be alive is when something is nice. Oh, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. That's Fall Out Boy, I think. It was from their new album. Fall Out Boy had a new album. I think it was 2023. No, it's 2024. It was last year, yeah, because that was when I went to Japan, and I remember talking about it with my brother. Yeah, Fall Out Boy's new album was very good. Which was really nice considering the last two albums have been, to put it charitably, less than stellar. Especially American Beauty, American Psycho was a terrible album. What was the other one? Hang on, so they did Save Rock and Roll, which when they came back into the hiatus in like 2015, I think it was, they did Save Rock and Roll, which I really liked. I thought it was a good album. They did American Beauty, American Psycho, which had some okay songs on it. A lot of the songs are very repetitive though and very boring. It's an album which is ultimately kind of mid. A lot of there are some nice songs, like Jetpack Blues is pretty decent. The titular song, American Beauty, American Psycho, is god-awful. I don't know why they would name their entire album after that song. Centuries was used in the film Big Hero 6. And, man, that song gets old after a little while. Yeah, there's just a lot of repetitiveness. I forget what the next album is called. Mania. That was it. Mania sucked. Mania was a god-awful album. Listen, if you're a Fall Out Boy fan, if you've never listened to Mania, just don't. I'm trying to think. There's maybe like one or two decent songs. Like Hold Me Tight or Don't was okay. I'm like, okay, this is a fun song. There was... What was it called? It was like a parody of the music video was a parody of a song by Kanye West, I think it was. The music video for it was, except it was llamas instead of a naked woman in the video for it. Was it Kanye West? I feel like it was Kanye West, yeah. And instead of like it being Kanye West tied up in the back of a car, it was Pete Wentz. And yeah. Anyway, what was that song called? No, that's Younger Menace. That was a bad song. What was it called? Wait, not another day goes by. So hold me tight, oh don't. Okay, that's the wrong song still. What was it called? What was that one song called they did? You're the last of a dying breed, permanence in the wet concrete. I wonder if the therapist knows anything about me. I'm here to tell you a story, but never apart. Aren't you kind of like... Last of the Real Ones. That was okay. And I can't remember anything else. There was a song called Heaven's Gate, which they showed a teaser of some of the original lyrics for it. I'm like, wow, that would have been a way better song if you'd stuck with it. They went for a different version of the final song, and it's kind of like, it's fine, it's okay. I feel like the original version they had in mind, though, which is all about trying to obtain fatherly love, would have been a much funner song, or at least much more lyrically interesting song than just someone trying to get, I don't know, I assume a girl's love, because that's all songs are about, right? Oh, I just want a girl like me, but she won't like me back. Oh, actually, okay, a little while ago, I was in, I was at a restaurant, because I was like, okay, I have like a few hours to kill before this is back when I was doing my play, by the way, so before I get to my final rehearsal, I have like a few hours to kill, so I went to this like restaurant which is doing like chicken wings of it. Oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll get some. And like, man, I was listening. They had like one of those like boring radio stations on, or like a top hits playlist on. I guess it must have been that. I don't know. But like, man, there were so many songs which are all like Are there like songs where it's like guys being like, girl, you're the one, or girls singing songs about like all men are fucking cheating whores? They should fuck themselves in the ass. All my homies hate men because they're cheating assholes and they don't deserve me. And it's like, damn girl, how many songs have you made about this? Like, who hurt you to make you sing it? You made, well, I guess you've got the last laugh in the end. You've got what I assume to be a chart-winning song, which sounds about as generic as every other song, just like this, made over the past, I don't know, several thousand years. How long have humans had music in their lives? And how long have humans been singing about heartbreak? Probably for about as long as we've had music and lyrics and poetry. Definitely poetry at the very least. There are many poems all about, like, courtly love, which was a kind of like... Okay, do you guys know the concept of courtly romance? Courtly love? It was kind of like a way to introduce romance into a scene where there was none. You know, a lot of people, like, think like, oh, courtly love, it's like, oh, people in the court are having a list... No, okay, yeah, kind of. Okay, so the way courtly love worked is that, like, the real way courtly love worked is that a lot of the time, a lot of the people in the court would be put into arranged marriages, right? To secure, like, I guess, bloodlines or secure inheritance for a family, right? I bet these are all, like, rich nobles and such, right? Am I having a bad internet right now, or, Oh, maybe... No, I'm actually fine, it says here. I've dropped 0 frames. It says I'm fine. Anyway, so... courtly love, you would have a lot of, like, these, like, rich noblemen, noblewomen being like, oh, I guess we're gonna get married, and a lot of people find that rather boring, because it's like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll just get married to this guy who I don't really know that well. I guess I've met them a few times at, like, a public gathering, maybe. The idea of courtly romance, though, is this idea of, like, bringing in romance into the, romance into the courtly affairs of political marriages, where it's like, oh, this person who I pine for is being married off to Duke Jingle Bongle of Countenstay. You know, everyone knows Duke Jingle Bongle of Countenstay. It's like, oh, but I wish to pine for the fair lady Burke. Fair lady Burke. Burke. If only I could win the heart of fair lady Burke, without anyone drawing attention to myself to cause some kind of political scandal. Like, I know, I shall write a romantic letter filled with my desires for the fair maiden, and the stream was never dead. The stream never died. You're a fool, Axolotta. You're a fool, I say. But yes, it's like, let's deliver this letter of all my romantic desires to the fair maiden, and she'll be like, oh, this is so lovely and thoughtful, but I cannot do it, for I am indeed to be married to Duke. It did die for me too. No, fuck. Wait, hang on, am I still alive then? It says dropped frame 0. That's odd then. It's saying there's no problems for me here. You're alive now? Excellent. Okay. Wait, hang on. So did it actually die? How very odd. Oh dear, I'm terribly sorry about that. Hang on. Wait. What could have happened then? It says in here that I have absolutely 0 dropped frames. Frame 60, CPU 13. Okay, that's a little bit higher than I'd like, but it's fine. I got distracted with the doodling, then suddenly just have an error code. Maybe it took me a silly little guy today. Wait, hang on. So what did I get up to then before everything died about my explanations of courtly love, which I'm sure you must find fascinating. Surely you do. Surely you find it as interesting as I do. Surely Surely, 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 surely. Yeah. I didn't hear a word of it. Well, that's great, because it means I get to explain it all over again in excruciating detail. So, imagine, if you will, you're in a French court. Or a British court, perhaps. I guess the British got their court system from the French. Or maybe they developed their own based on... Either way, okay, let's go again then. And we're going to start from the top and everything's going to be fine and dandy and dandily fine. Okay, so... Imagine you're in a courtroom. You're not in a courtroom. That's a very different thing. You're in a real court. Fine lords and ladies, the lot of them all. All in extravagant dress and perfumed to an exorbitant extent that it's almost suffocating. All that good stuff. You are going to be married. However, or rather, a fine lady of the court, rather, is going to be married to a gentleman of the court. Now, why is this being done? Well, it's an arranged marriage. It's an arranged marriage to potentially secure some kind of political allegiance between two parties, to secure financial, or even just like, just to confirm a lineage, to reassure a lineage for family trees, right? And everyone's like, okay, well, this is gonna happen. You might not know these people. You may have met your spouse-to-be. Maybe at like one or two public social gatherings, perhaps. Maybe you've had some words with them. Maybe you even like them. Maybe you don't like them, though. Who knows? Maybe they're just the person you'll be marrying. I imagine that's more the thought for women than men, because it's like, yeah, women. I was like, okay, it's just a guy, I guess. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe there's many gentlemen who'd be like, okay, I don't really know this woman. She might be a bore. I don't know. Though, regardless of what's happening, there is an arranged marriage. It is destined to happen. You can do nothing about it. Unless, I don't know, maybe all the members of one of the houses dies in a terrible war. In which case, that would be tragic, but you'd probably still just be marched off to another house instead. Anyway, at least if you're a woman. Anyway, the idea of courtly love came about as a result of realizing that this was all very unromantic, and did not play into the ideals of romance. The look away into the distance is very important for that, as you can tell. It's very important to give it a moment to really get into the concept of romance. And now you understand how wistful and whimsical it all is, just from that mere pause and look into the distance. I'm sure you understand it all clearly, and there's no explanation needed whatsoever. Anyway, so, you would have all these courtly couples being put together by their elders, and being like, yes, this is all very good. This is all wonderful, and shall secure our bloodlines. It's like, oh, it's very unromantic. So, how do we do this? Well, what if there's an arranged marriage going on between Duke Longengorbengol of Clydeston and Lady Bark. So, and it's like, oh, Lady Burke. Lady Burke is to be married to the Duke. Oh, what shall I do? For you see, I have strong, burning feelings of love and affection towards the young lady. Oh, whatever shall I do? And you think, I know. I should write a love letter, a letter filled with all my thoughts of love and passion and longing for the dear fair maiden, and make my emotions known to her, though it will never amount to anything, for it cannot. But I must release these feelings, these urges I have somehow. And, I don't know, maybe you'd get some young courtly boy, or young page boy, or perhaps a handmaiden to deliver a letter to the young lady, to the young lady Burke. And she would read it, and then like, oh, this is so flattering, I'm so flattered. And maybe they'd write a poem even. They'd write a poem confessing their love. and it would be all very well done, maybe. I don't know. Poetry was learned commonly, so I imagine some people would have decent skills at poetry writing. But, oh, this is so kind and generous, and, my heart yearns for the young man who would write me such a heartfelt and loving letter, and it's very kind of them. But alas, it cannot be, for I am getting married to Duke Longan Dongan Schluggen of Crazy Frogland, I guess. And it would be like, oh, I'm very flattered, but I must decline the offer. And this was the expected outcome, because, well, she's already to be married. But it was all like a bit of a show, basically, between all the players involved. And it's like, oh, well, there's this, I received a fine letter, a fine poetry, and, I don't know, maybe some, I don't know, romantic, romance gift, like a handkerchief, mayhaps? And it would all be very gushy-wushy and very cutesy, and would ultimately lead nowhere, but it's a way to introduce this kind of, like, romantic flair and desire to a courtly arena, essentially. Arena being, you know, more of a... It wasn't actually an arena, it's more of a metaphorical arena, as it were. But, yeah, and that's how you got courtly romance. The drama of it all indeed, Lamette. The drama of it all indeed. Can you imagine if the good Duke Longan heard that his good lady, Lady Burke, his betrothed, suddenly got a letter from a Lord KBPS. We're gonna kill him for just a second. I don't know. Hell, Lamette, you could be the insert here. You could be the Lord Lamette, maybe. Or maybe House Lamette sounds like a really good name, actually, for like a fantasy name. Like a fantasy house. The House of Lamette. Yeah. I mean, you're a vampire, right? You could be like an old vampire house. But like, the bloodlines for vampires are going out, and you're all getting... And despite the fact that you once were all immortal beings, you're now dying out because the bloodlines have been diluted over time, and it's all... You're all, like, not pure-blooded vampires anymore. But then it's like, well, hang on, isn't vampirism a disease which is passed on from other vampires? And in this version, you could say, I don't fucking know. But yeah, the drama of it all, of a member of House Lamette giving a romantic letter to Lady Burke, and giving some kind of token of his affection, perhaps. Who knows? And yes, it would be very dramatic. It would all be like, ooh, who's the lucky lad? Ooh. But again, it would ultimately lead to nothing. And you know, that was kind of the point of it all, I guess. It does lead to some very interesting ideas, though. So, eventually, okay, so from Wales would pass on to throughout the rest of England and even to Scotland and Ireland, the Arthurian mythology. It all originated in Wales. England kind of adopted it from the Welsh, and there's a whole movement there in Wales actually to try and reclaim some of that ownership from England, because believe it or not, England is a shit country, and kind of fucked over a lot of people. Thank you for the impromptu fanfiction. Thank you. I've never written fanfiction in my life. All my can I be honest? All of my like ideas of fanfiction are all just like the terrible shit that everyone shares about because it's so awful. Like I don't know. I can't even think of anything, but like, oh yes, some terrible fanfiction about blank being in some like enemies to lovers relationship with some guy. It's like, does this make sense? No, it doesn't make any sense, and it's also not well written. I think it's more largely because a lot of fanfiction is not well written, right? I think a lot of it is written by people who think they can write and probably can't write. I'm sure there's a lot of really good stuff out there, though, if you know where to look. I don't know where to look, nor do I care to look for it. But yes, so Wales had this Arthurian mythos, these old tales and legends of King Arthur's court, which would eventually spread to France And France loved it. France ate this shit up. France, like, oh my god, all these knights going on these magical adventures. What a wonderful time to, wow, the Mabinogion, which I do have, I don't think I've read all of it. But yeah, full of all these Arthurian stories. Wow, awesome, great stuff. And what did the French do? They adopted it for themselves as well. But I'm yet to write fan fiction. Thank you, Axel, I appreciate it. If you're going to write fan fiction, do a good job of it, otherwise I will kill you. Look into my one empty eye hole and tell me I'm lying. That's what I thought. No, I'm just fucking me. But yeah, so imagine the French have just found all this Arthurian stuff. Like, oh wow, this is great. And also, by the way, they're still at war with England, I guess. Sometimes, well, kind of, but not really. Sometimes they're at war with England. For at least 100 years they were. Anyway, the French decide to write their own characters into it. Again, in like a fan fiction kind of way. French poets. I don't think if it can be sorted down to one individual. Maybe it can be, I'm not sure, but like, essentially the character of Lancelot got popularized in France, who would later return as Lancelot. Just the pronunciation is different, obviously, but he's this figure who is a member of King Arthur's court as knights, but kind of embodied all these French ideals of French romanticism, of French romance. And he gets involved in this courtly romance with the courtly affair, even, with the good Queen Guinevere. And, man, I fucking hate it. Okay. And there's a reason why. Now, in order to character... Yeah, okay. How do I put this? This is an illicit affair, right? It is an illicit affair. A lot of people don't look highly on that. I don't think most cultures look highly on that. This would have been seen as like a cool, as an interesting romantic thing for the French audiences, for the French writers and poets and the listeners of these poems at the time. Because it's like, ooh, there's this romantic element to a thing where there was none. It's like, oh, and I think it's, but... It also describes both Lancelot and King Arthur and Guinevere as all great people. A lot of times, or at least sometimes it does. Now, by modern standards, in order for this to be socially acceptable, one of two things needs to or at least socially understandable. There's a few things which need to happen, or one of a few things need to happen. Number one, King Arthur needs to be a bad husband, a neglectful husband to Queen Guinevere. And it's like, oh, girl... Go, you found someone who loves you for you. Yeah, go for it. Have this affair. I'm sure if deal with it, you could just get couples counseling. I don't think that existed at the time. So, you know, be like, oh man, that's fine, girl, go for it. And, you know, sure, people would still like it. Like, she's a cheating whore, like, whatever. The other thing would be that Guinevere actually is a bad person. She is just this cheating whore, as people would like to phrase. And King Arthur is a good guy. Lancelot is maybe a good guy, and maybe she's the one making advances at him. It's like, hey, listen, you're married to the king, my friend. You're not just you're married to the king. Not just that, you're married to my friend, and I don't appreciate this. Or maybe, as it was the case in the TV show Merlin. Anyone watched Merlin? That was a really good show. Lancelot came in before they were together, and it's like, ooh, that's an interesting twist. And can I spoil this show, which is over like a decade old now? Lancelot dies in, like, I want to say like the third season or something like that, before anything can happen with their romance. And it's like, that was an interesting way of doing it. But yeah, the third way it can be is that there'd be a fun thing to do as a time traveler, medieval couples counseling. It's really interesting you bring time travel. There's a really famous book called A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, where at the time, a modern day American from, I want to say, like, late 1800s, early 1900s. When was that written? Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. Hang on, let's have a look at this. I need to double check this now. Connecticut Yankee. 1889 it came out. Okay. Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court is a really interesting book, which is kind of like a jibe at like a lot of these like old Arthurian traditions, where you have this modern day American, the titular Connecticut Yankee, whose name I cannot remember, who essentially is telling this story to this guy he's met about how he was sent back in time to the land of England and in Arthurian England, and his experiences there, and him trying to implement all these modern technological things into the Arthurian type. It's a very funny book. It's very tongue-in-cheek. Honestly, it's very fun. It's amusing. It's very tongue-in-cheek. Kind of acts as like a bit of a way for the writers to complain about a lot of political stuff going on at the time as well, without like it being explicitly political. But yeah, that I just thought it was an interesting anecdote because you brought it up. So what was it? Yeah, so the other thing is that the way you can characterize that Lancelot actually isn't a nice guy. He is this guy who's trying to basically break in on this marriage, this happy marriage. And either way, King Arthur ends up being a cook. Not a good look for him as, you know, this heroic king. But hey, that was what the French did, I guess. The French loved making kings cooks and having illicit affairs and having it being part of romance. So yeah, in a lot of story, by modern standards, a lot of stories who want to include this weird love triangle, which actually it's actually a love arrow because there is no romance between all two of the characters there. And like, fuck off, it's a love triangle. In order to make this make sense by a modern audience's standards, you need to have one of the characters be an asshole. One of them needs to be unlikable, unless, again, you do something like what Merlin did, where you kind of change the order of events of things, and such, to make it palatable without it being like, oh, this person's cheating, and like, or whatever, and like, in Merlin, like, Arthur was the person Guinevere fell in love with after Lancelot dies, and it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. What was I going to say there? Yeah, so there's this one... what was it called? There's this one really famous piece of Arthurian literature, which I can't remember the name of it now, and it really bothers me because I hate it. Famous... Maybe I'll look at famous pieces of Arthurian literature. Arthurian literature. Okay, here's a list of Arthurian literature. This is going to be potentially extensive. I'm looking for English. Yvain and Gawain, no. Sir Launfal, I think I've read that one. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. If you've never read the story Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, it's really fun. It's a really good story. I'd recommend it. Was it Untwas of Arthur? No, it's not. No, what was it called? Was it it wasn't in the Mabinogion, was it? Oh, this is going to haunt me for the rest of my days. This is going to haunt me now. God damn it. Oh no. Well, either way, this is really famous Arthurian literature from it was like Middle English. Was it Middle English? Wait, it was Mallory. Was it Mallory? I feel like it was Mallory. Arthurian literature, Mallory. Hang on, I think I just saw the name Mallory and I'm like, wait a minute, I know that name. Mallory. If you can't tell, I'm really kind of trying to scratch my brain Le Mort d'Arthur! That's it, Arthur. Yeah, hang on. I'll just... Listen, if anyone can speak French in the chat, perhaps you can correct my spelling on this. Was that a translation? It was Thomas Mallory, yes. Le Mort d'Arthur, 15th century Middle English prose reworking by Sir Thomas Mallory of tales about King Arthur, Guinevere, Lancelot, Merlin, and the Knights of the Round Table. Okay. I've got it now. Oh. Hang on, wait, is my stream dead, by the way? It says I've got 0.2% dropped frames, which is never a good sign. Oh, as in, the stream died, or the stream's back? Did the stream die? I hope so. I hope not. I certainly hope not. Everything seeing my connection is fine. Stream seems to be living. Most excellent, my dude. Most excellent. Yes, Le Mort d'Arthur. It was a... Was that translate? Yeah, it was by Thomas Mallory. I despise this work. I despise this work for a really specific reason. And when I was actually at university on this cycle of life, I spoke to one of my tutors about it, and like, I really don't like reading this. And I was talking about it, and she understood where it's coming from it. She personally really liked it, but she understood where it's coming from. Where it's trying to mix English and French traditions of chivalric romance in a way which I don't think it's successful in. Now, okay, there's like a collection of stories in here, right? There's a collection of things, and it's not all limited to one thing. Hang on, here's an example. Here's a list of stories: the birth and rise of Arthur, Arthur's war against the resurgent Western Romans, early adventures of Lancelot, the story of Gareth, the legend of Tristan and Isolde, or Isolde, it's sometimes written as. Also, it's sometimes written as Tristram as well. The Quest for the Grail. Hang on, wait, was the Knight and the Lion not in here? Oh no, it wasn't in here. The forbidden love between Lancelot and Guinevere, and the breakup of the Knights of the Round Table, and the last battle of Arthur. Or, would it be written in Middle English? This, I'll just read that here. The most pious tale of Le Mort d'Arthur sans Guerdon. Man, that last story, I fucking despise that. It makes me mad. So, essentially, it's like, hiya Thorn. Thorn, I'm angry about Arthurian literature right now. Please indulge me whilst I shit on people who are not even alive anymore and haven't been alive for over 500 years. Now, hang on. The Knight and the Lion. What was that from? Yvain, the Knight of the Lion. Arthurian Romance by French poet Chrétien de Troyes. This is dope. Okay, listen, if you want an example of a really good Arthurian story which doesn't really, like, it doesn't, like, have any weird, like, conflicting things. And okay, I'm gonna get onto Le Mort d'Arthur in a second. Yvain, the Knight of the Lion by Chrétien de Troyes. Holy shit, this is such a fun story. It's all about the titular Yvain, and he goes on all these adventures, the multitude of adventures of Yvain, one of the King Arthur's knights, and he becomes the Knight of the Lion because he befriends a lion who is apparently in England, because everyone knows lions are native to England, I guess. Granted, also, the England football team has 3 lions on their shirt. That's like the emblem of the England football team. And lions are nowhere near native to, well, anywhere in Europe, basically. If you had a lion, it was probably imported from, like, African traders or something like that. Or maybe like Greek traders, who probably in turn had got it from Africa, let's be real. Anyway. Night of the Lion is very cool. Yeah, it's just like a guy going on all these adventures with this lion that he befriends. It's really cool. A bunch of fun stories in there. Heavily would recommend Yvain, the Night of the Lion. Anyway, my problem with Le Morte d'Arthur, especially the last story, again, the most pious tale of Le Morte d'Arthur sans Guerdon. Sans Guerdon. Piteous, I said pious, piteous tale, my goodness, I can't read. Okay, my problem with this is Thorn. I'll read that in a moment because I'm I'm mad. I'm a mad little guy. I'm not mad. Am I mad? We're all mad here. I'm mad. You're mad. How do you know I'm mad? Well, because you're here. Anyway, so Le Morte d'Arthur, whatever, fucking Thomas Mallory's work. The ending of the final story is fucking Lancelot and Guinevere, they get found out that, oh no, their affair is out in the open, and my goodness, Guinevere has been cheating with the king on the King Arthur with Lancelot. I hiccuped them, and I hit my microphone. What a good. I'm gonna have a sip of water. One of the ones I enjoyed listening to the most were in their live performance, as they've been Royal Republic when they played for that concert so far. I think I'm getting confused with One Republic when you said Royal Republic. I hope you enjoyed it though. That sounds really fun. A Swedish rock. That sounds awesome. I'd love to go to more concerts. There's not really anywhere around where I live, but I'd love to see more concerts and stuff. The last concert I went, I think I mentioned before lots of times, it was in Amsterdam to see Akuma Nimone. Anyway, so you have Le Morte d'Arthur. Oh no, Lancelot has been having this affair with Guinevere. Everyone's found out about it, and partly due to Mordred. Mordred is not a wizard, by the way. There's a lot of like stuff nowadays which kind of paints Mordred as this evil wizard who's like a rival to Merlin. He's not. He's just like one of the knights of the Round Table. By the way, it's not like a group, right? A lot of people think, oh, the Knights of the Round Table is like a group, like a small group of like amazing individuals, like the Olympus 12 from Greek mythology, which even then, calling them the Olympus 12 is probably inaccurate, because many of them were worshipped at different points. It's kind of, or like, I don't know, and stuff like that, right? There were hundreds of knights in King Arthur's court, all of which were apparently valid to sit at this round table. So I imagine it must have been enormous. Anyway, the idea was that, Mordred was not a wizard. He was just a knight. He was an asshole. He was not like a good guy, and he did become a villain. But he was essentially just another member of the court of Arthur's knights. And yeah, what happens is that they get found out, and like I think Mordred is like, oh, let's teach this Lancelot guy a lesson after he's been arrested, and they're gonna try and kill him. And it's like, whoa, we need to give him a proper trial, but they're gonna kill him anyway. So Lancelot escapes, and I don't know, I think he finds Maid Marian. I'm getting confused with Robin Hood there. He finds Guinevere, and it's like, oh, my fair Guinevere, come with me. And like, okay. Meanwhile, there's this big war happening, or something like that. It's so dumb. And Arthur's like, oh, I can't believe I've been betrayed by my good friend Lancelot and my wife Guinevere, the queen. Could this day get any worse? And it's like, well, yeah, because at the end of this day, you're gonna die. And it's like, what? Kind of. Not really. Almost. He's in a coma. Okay. So what happens at the end of it is that Lancelot, I believe he kills himself. I'm not sure. Maybe he doesn't actually. Hang on. I'm on the Wikipedia article for Le Morte d'Arthur here. And let's have a look to see this brief summary it will give the final book. Okay. A disaster strikes, and King Arthur's bastard son Mordred and his half-brother Agravain succeed in revealing Queen Guinevere's adultery, and Arthur sentences her to burn. Oh my goodness. Lancelot's rescue party raids the execution, killing several loyal knights of the Round Table, including, unwittingly, Gawaine's younger brothers, Gareth and Gaheris. You may also recognize some of these names if you've basically seen any kind of media using Arthurian knights. I'm thinking like, I don't know, if anyone's a Fate fan. I've not watched Fate, but I know there's a lot of Arthurian references in it. Gawain, bent on revenge, prompts Arthur into a long and bitter civil war with Lancelot. After they leave to pursue Lancelot in France, where Gawain is mortally injured in a duel with Lancelot, and later finally reconciles with him on his deathbed, Mordred seizes the throne and takes control of Arthur's kingdom. At the bloody final battle between Mordred's followers and Arthur's remaining loyalists in England, Arthur kills Mordred, but is himself gravely wounded. As Arthur is dying, the lone survivor Bedivere casts Excalibur away, and Morgan and Nimue come together to take Arthur to Avalon. Following the disappearance and presumed passing of King Arthur, who is succeeded by Constantine, Mallory provides a short epilogue about the later lives and deaths of Bedivere, Guinevere, and Lancelot and his kinsmen. Now, that all sounds fine and dandy. Right? Oh, all this civil war. Except none of it fucking makes sense, because regardless of what happens, Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot are all written to be heroic characters. And it's like, oh, well, he killed his friend, but it was such a tragedy, and he didn't mean to do it, so it's fine. Like, oh, he sentenced his wife to death and burn at the stake, but it's because he was so enraged that he had been betrayed by her and his good friend Lancelot and had been cuckolded by them, that, oh, it's within his right to. Guinevere, oh, she went along with all of this, but she was still such a pure, kind-hearted soul. Like, no, I'm sorry. You're trying to ascribe French romance sensibilities with traditional English Arthurian stories, and I don't think it meshes well. I think that summary does a far better job of making it seem a better read than actually reading it. Because when you do read it, it's like, oh, they're all good guys. The real villain here is Mordred. Mordred's the bad fellow. You must believe me when I say that all this could have been stopped if Mordred had not been involved in all this, and it is all his doing. I'm like, no, fuck off. Fuck off, Mallory. What are you doing? I'm sorry, but you can't justify the actions of people being terrible and say, oh, they're all good people, really. I do say, how the trifecta here of protagonists are all fine and noble-hearted people, and suddenly driven astray by lapses in judgment. No, fuck off. Fuck off, you twat. Oh. Just stop. I don't understand why he felt the need to make this. When was this written? I want to say 1506? Maybe later than that. Does it give an exact date? Oh, originally published in 1485. Wow, okay. Why do I think 1506 then? Maybe I'm thinking I'm getting confused with something else. Either way. It's just not a good read. Listen, to the one person out there who suddenly stumbled upon this stream and think, wait, this guy's talking Le Morte d'Arthur. I love that book. No, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. It's shit. It's dog shit. Go read The Night of the Lion instead. That's a great book. Poem? I can't remember if it was a book or a poem or whatever. Go read The Night of the Lion. That's really fun. And full of cool, or like, go and read, what was the story? What did I just say beforehand? Gawain and the Green Knight. That's really fun. Gawain and the Green Knight is really fun and has lots of cool things which happen. And it's all about, like, basically this guy who is not this perfect knight. Gawain and the Green Knight is a story all about a guy who is very flawed. He's not a bad guy. Gawain is not a bad guy by any means, but he's not this paragon like so many other knights of the Round Table are characterized as being a lot of the time. But he is just very human. And essentially, okay, Gawain and the Green Knight, essentially what happens is that the titular Green Knight comes into the castle and essentially puts a challenge forward And Gawain accepts the challenge. By the way, this guy is huge. The Green Knight he's this like giant of a man. The dedicated Lamont fan base are planning your downfall. I know. It's sometimes you need to make some enemies though out there. You need to make some enemies if you want to send a message. And my message is that I don't really know what I'm gonna do. Bomb an airport. I might say that joke. I might say that. I don't know. I don't know. Lamont D'Arthur. Oh my god, I just remember a really funny joke the other day, actually. Okay, so two guys walk into a bar, look kind of shady. Server goes, listeners, how can I help you, gents? Oh, well, we're terrorists. We're planning on killing 14,000 people and a donkey. The server says, oh, why a donkey? One terrorist looks at the other and says, see, I told you they wouldn't care about the people. Anyway, that was a terrible joke. Anyway, okay, so Lamort D'Arthur fanbase be damned. Fuck that book. Go read the Gawain and the Green Knight. Hang on, let me get a quick summary of Gawain and the Green. Because it's been a while since I've read it, but it's a really fun story. Yeah, hang on. Uno momento, my friends. Was the writer known for this? Oh yeah, it was just the Gawain poet. It was an anonymous poem. Yeah, I remember now, yeah. Okay, so hang on. I'll just read the synopsis on Wikipedia. In Camelot, on New Year's Eve, King Arthur's court is exchanging gifts and waiting for the feasting to start, when the king asks to see or hear of an exciting adventure. A gigantic figure, entirely green in appearance and riding a green horse, rides unexpectedly into the hall. He wears no armor, but bears an axe in one hand and a holly bow in the other. Refusing to fight anyone there on the grounds that they are all too weak, he insists he has come for a friendly Christmas game. Someone is to strike him once with his axe, on the condition that the Green Knight may return the blow in a year and a day. The axe will belong to whoever accepts his deal. King Arthur is prepared to accept the challenge when it appears no other knights will dare, but Sir Gawain, youngest of Arthur's knights, and his nephew ask for the honour instead. The giant bends and bares his neck before him, and Gawain neatly beheads him in one stroke. However, the Green Knight neither falls nor falters, but instead reaches out, picks up his severed head, and mounts his horse. The Green Knight shows his bleeding head to Queen Guinevere, while it reminds Gawain that the two must meet again at the Green Chapel in a year and 8. There's a lot of all the Green Knight stuff is green. All the Green Knight stuff is green, by the way. Green horse, green axe, green chapel. Yeah, you must meet there at a year and a day before the knight rides away. Gawain and Arthur admire the axe, hang it up as a trophy, and encourage Guinevere to treat the whole matter lightly. As the date approaches, Sir Gawain leaves to find the Green Chapel. By the way, when it's saying here it approaches, he actually was like several months in advance for this, because obviously he had to travel a long time in those days, because you wouldn't just drive a car anyway. Sir Gawain leaves to find the Green Chapel and keep his part of the bargain. Many adventures and battles are alluded to, but not described, until Gawain comes across a splendid castle, where he meets the lord of the castle and his beautiful wife, who are pleased to have such a renowned guest. See, this is the part where you find Gawain is actually not a perfect figure. Also present is an old and ugly lady, unarmed but treated with great honour by all. Gawain tells them of his New Year's appointment at the Green Chapel, and he has only a few days remaining. The Lord laughs, explaining that there is a path that will take him to the chapel less than 2 miles away, and proposes that Gawain rest at the castle until then. Relieved and grateful, Gawain agrees. The Lord proposes a bargain to Gawain. He goes hunting every day, and he'll give Gawain whatever he catches, on the condition that Gawain give him whatever he may gain during the day. Gawain accepts, and after he leaves, his wife, the Lord's wife, visits Gawain's bedroom and behaves seductively. Ooh. But despite her best efforts, he allows her nothing but a single kiss. It's something. When the Lord returns and gives Gawain the deer he was killed, Gawain gives a kiss to him without divulging its source. The next day, the lady returns to Gawain, who again courteously foils her advances, and later that day, there's a similar exchange of a hunted boar for 2 kisses. She comes once more on the 3rd morning, but once her advances are denied, she offers Gawain a gold ring as a keepsake. He gently but steadfastly refuses, but she pleads that he at least take her sash, a girdle of green and gold silk. What could it mean? What could this possibly mean? The Green Knight with all his green adornments, his green horse, his green axe, his green chapel? And now you have this lady of the house giving as a gift a green girdle. What? What? Ha pa 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 pa. The sash, the lady assures him, is charmed and will keep him from all physical harm. Tempted as he may otherwise die the next day, Gawain accepts it, and they exchange 3 kisses. The lady has Gawain swear that he will keep the gift secret from her husband, and that evening the Lord returns with a fox, for which he exchanges with Gawain with the 3 kisses, but he does not mention the sash. Oh no, our paragon hero is not so much of a paragon after all. He has lied, he's forgiven, he has betrayed the promise he gave to the Lord of the house. Oh goodness, it's all going downhill. The next day, Gawain binds the sash around his waist. Outside the Green Chapel, only an earthen mound containing a cavern, he finds the Green Knight sharpening an axe. As promised, Gawain bends his bare neck to receive his blow. At the first swing, Gawain flinches slightly, and the Green Knight belittles him for it. Ashamed of himself, Gawain does not flinch with the second swing. But again, the Green Knight withholds the full force of his blow. The knight explains he was testing Gawain's nerve. Angrily, Gawain tells him to deliver his blow, and so the knight does, causing only a slight wound on Gawain's neck and ending the game. Gawain seizes his sword, helmet, and shield, but the Green Knight, laughing, reveals himself to be none other than the Lord of the Castle! Whoa! Lord Bertilac de Hot Desert, transformed by magic. He explains that the entire adventure was a trick of the unnamed elderly lady Gawain saw at the castle, who is the sorceress Morgan Le Fay. Ooh, didn't see that coming, did we? Morgan Le Fay was responsible for all of this. Arthur's stepsister as well, who intended to test Arthur's knights and frighten Guinevere to death. The nick Gawain suffered from the 3rd stroke was because of his attempt to conceal the gift of the sash. Gawain is ashamed to have behaved deceitfully, but the Green Knight laughs and pronounces him the most blameless knight in all the land. The 2 part on cordial terms. Gawain returns to Camelot, wearing the sash as a token of his failure to keep his promise. The Knights of the Round Table absolve him of the blame and decide that henceforth each will wear a green sash in recognition of Gawain's adventure and as a reminder to be honest. Isn't that lovely and cute? That's a cute story. I kind of really like this story because it is just like so human. Gawain is this guy who is trying his best to be this heroic figure and kind of doesn't manage it. In the end, he's afraid that he doesn't want to die. He goes off to face his death, and he's terrified of it. He gets offered the chance to be invincible, and it's like, oh, yeah, I would like that because dying's scary. Not a heroic figure, not a heroic image at all. But in the end, it's kind of just very nice. Like, hey, man. This Green Knight, the Green Knight is almost always shown as very jovial. He's very intimidating. He's massive, right? He's this giant of a man, but he's very jovial, right? He's like, you're all too weak to fight me. Who's gonna come at me then? Come on, mate. Come on. I'll fucking take you all on, lads. But yeah, the Green Knight is just like a very fun figure, honestly. And he's like, hey, man, don't worry about it. Like, no one's perfect. No one's asking you to be this perfect heroic figure. You don't need to be that. You're trying your best, and that's what matters. And I think that's a really lovely story. I think it's really lovely that a story like that even existed at this time when heroes had to be perfect. Oh no, actually, I say that. That's not necessarily true. Greek heroes were full of heroes which had flaws. The hamartia, the fatal flaw, was a common trope in a lot of stories of Greek heroes where some kind of flaw in their character will become their undoing, leading to the peripeteia, the major twist of the upheaval of the story. I mean, I'll be reading the Odyssey in a bit later on, so the Odyssey for that. Odysseus, despite his immense intellect, he's extremely intelligent, he's prideful and boastful, which ends up fucking him over in the end of the day. It fucks him over and it fucks the lives of his crew over. And yeah, this happens in a lot of stories, right? In the trials of Heracles, despite completing all the trials set before him by the king, who's responsible for giving him the trials, he's too trusting of the king's words and gets betrayed, and yeah, it sucks. And this happens a lot. There's a lot of stories where a character says they're all the best, and you know, a lot of these are all moral stories as well. A lot of people being like, oh, I'm the best in the world at this thing, and then the gods are like, no you're not. And I don't know, they'll die or get turned into a flower or something like that. Something like that always happens. But yeah, I guess for Arthurian romance, it was very common. Romance. It was very common to have these paragon heroes, and it's very comforting to see Gawain being this very human guy, this very human person who fears death like any other man, who is really trying his best to be this noble figure, and just doesn't really reach it in the end, but he's absolved of it all by then. Like, hey, don't worry about it, man. No one's perfect. I kinda love that. To have this story in like the 1400s, you're like, hey, no one's perfect. Don't worry about it. Just keep on doing your best, and that's enough. Sorry, this has been 1300s even. This is 14th century. Late 14th century. This has been like late 1300s, I guess. Yeah. Do we have an estimated time for when it was an actual year? An estimate for that? Who knows? I'm trying to find it now. Do we have an estimate? This is one of those things where, because we don't know who the writer was, who the poet was for it, it's kind of hard to determine who it was, but it's okay. So yeah, go read Gawain and the Green Knight. Go read Yvain, the Knight of the Lion. And I have this in a compendium of like literature, but go read the story of Tristan and Isolde. That's a very sad, it's a very sad story. Actually, really interesting. So there's a series of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh called the Noble Knights, and they're all based on Arthurian myths. There's a card in Yu-Gi-Oh called Isolde, Two Tales of the Noble Knights, and it has two women on it. And it's a fantastic. Number one, that card is like been a menace for years, by the way, in the game. So it's a very powerful card. It's using basically any kind of warrior deck which can use it. Gotta go soon. Glad I managed to make some dueling. No worries, actually. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate it, my friend. But yeah, so you have it's a very good card. Anyway, so it's got two women on it. Both of these are actually Isolde. So the story of Tristan and Isolde goes that yeah. Tristan, different spellings, all the same guy. He falls in love with this woman named Isolde. Stuff happens. Essentially, they're having this like affair, and it's end up not to be, where he gets sent away to a foreign land, and it's believed that Tristan dies, and Isolde is forced to marry another man, and it's all very sad and miserable. Thing is, when Tristan goes to this foreign land and he's presumed dead, he ends up meeting a new woman, also named Isolde, who reminds him of his first love, Isolde. So there's two Isoldes, and they both love Tristan, but he's still reminded of the old Isolde that he knew. And it's all like this big romantic tragedy where I think basically everyone dies and everyone's sad by the end of it. But it's all like, oh, this love of what could have been, and this new love, which is trying to capture that flame from the first one. It's all very sad stuff. I'm sure you understand. But yeah. With that being said, read it. It's very good. Maybe I can find my... Well, I'll probably have my copy of it available, so maybe I can read... Would you guys like to read Arthurian stories on stream? That'll be fun. I think that'll be fun. Yeah. Because I have like a bunch of like literature books from my uni days, which have like tons of stories in them, tons of written work. So I could go through that. Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun to do. Speaking of reading, I'm just gonna go get some more water, and then we're gonna go and read the Odyssey. Okay? So yeah, let's go do that. So hang on, I'm just gonna get some water. One moment. Hello, everyone. I hope you're prepared for a fun-filled reading of the Odyssey. I have my copy here. Let's change the category, actually. ASMR, that should be suitable for it. Hopefully that should be updated now, because it updates it 3 times, because you need to do that in order to get it to work. Okay, so let's just turn the music down. Okay, so regarding the Odyssey, so actually, we're not reading from book 3 onwards, we are in fact reading from book 4 onwards. Let me change that. Yes. Okay. Okay, so the Odyssey. So, what has happened since we last read? So, to catch people up to date now who just want to jump in and have not been here for the last few ones, um, we're not very far in at all. It's all very casual at the moment. So there's been this convene of the gods where Athena has spoken to Zeus and said, "Hey, we must let Odysseus go? He's been trapped." Like, okay, we'll get something sorted out regarding this. And Athene in this translation, this again, as you can see at the top, translation by Evie Ryu. Um, love the on theme backdrop. It's Ithaca. It is actually the island of Ithaca. Um, it's Ithaca. Odysseus' homeland. So, the goddess Athene has come down to visit Telemachus, son of the great hero Odysseus, who has been trapped on an island for years now, and everyone assumes he's dead. It's been over 20 years since he's returned home. His wife, the queen Penelope, misses him, and has been using many tricks to try and delay having to find a new husband. There are suitors who are taking advantage of the Greek concept of xenia, Greek hospitality, and have been eating them out of house and home and ruining their estate, essentially. And Telemachus, he's this young guy. He's grown up hearing stories of his dad, and he's been advised by Athene to go on this journey, to go with this crew. She's given this crew and given him all this help to go on this journey and find information about Odysseus, to find information about his whereabouts, if he's still alive, and also just to kind of grow as a person more. Well, maybe he doesn't know that, but she certainly does. And we just went to the first place he visited. I believe what was the island called again? He went to he went to the island of Pylos and went to the main city there, Neleus, where the king Nestor lives, who was an old friend and ally of Odysseus at Troy. And he's explained, "I'm sorry, I don't know where Odysseus is, but who might know is good King Menelaus, the brother of Agamemnon, who they keep talking about. Agamemnon recently died. Now, you might know, you might be able to find some information from Menelaus, who was one of the reasons they went to war. That Menelaus' wife, not Paris, that was Helen, was taken and married to Paris of Troy, and he took her back. Whether this was mutual consensual or not, I don't really know. But yes, you may want to go and see Menelaus, as he is at home now, and he may be able to give you some information what's happened. So he sent him to find Menelaus in his city, and he sent with him his son. What was his son's name again? I'm trying to see what it was now. Pisistratus. Yes. So it's now Telemachus and Pisistratus on a road trip adventure, going to try and find Menelaus. And yeah. Hopefully we can see what happens here. So this is book 4, Menelaus and Helen. Let me know if the microphone's okay, by the way. By the way, can you hear the pages? And so they came to the rolling lands of Lacedaemon, deep in the hills, and drove up to the palace of the illustrious Menelaus. They found him entertaining a large company of relatives in his house to celebrate the impending weddings of his son and of his lovely daughter. He was sending the princess as a bride to the son of Achilles, that would be Neoptolemus, that breaker of the battle line, as he had promised long ago in Troy. So now, by the gods' will, the marriage was soon to take place, and Menelaus was sending her with chariot and horses to the capital of the Myrmidons, of whom her bridegroom was the king. As bride for his beloved son, the gallant Megapenthes, he was bringing Elector's daughter from Sparta, A slave had borne this son to Menelaus, for the gods had given no other child to Helen or after Hermione, that lovely girl with golden Aphrodite's beauty. They were banqueting, then, under the high roof of the great hall, these relatives and friends of the illustrious Menelaus in festive mood, while a minstrel in the company sang divinely to the lyre, and 2 acrobats danced in time to his tune, and whirled in and out among the guests. The 2 travellers, brave Telemachus and Nestor's noble son, brought their chariot to a halt at the courtyard gate. The Lord Etonius, energetic squire of the great Menelaus, came out and saw them there and set off at once to the palace to inform the king. He stood near him and said urgently, "Menelaus, favourite of Zeus, we have some strangers at the gate, and men whom I take by their looks to be of divine descent. Tell me whether we should unharness their horses for them to send them on to find someone else to entertain them." Auburn-haired Menelaus answered him indignantly. "Etonius, son of Boethius, you have not always been a fool, but at the moment you are talking nonsense like a child. You and I enjoyed much hospitality from strangers before we reached our homes, and we could expect that Zeus might grant us a life without suffering in time to come. Unyoke their horses at once, and bring our visitors to join us at the feast." Etonius ran off through the hall, shouting to his assistants to hurry up and follow him. They led the sweating horses from under the yoke and tied them up at the mangers in the stable, throwing down beside them a feed of grain mixed with white barley. Then they tilted the chariot against the burnished wall by the gate and ushered the newcomers into the royal buildings. Telemachus and his friend opened their eyes in wonder at all they saw. I lost my place there. At all they saw as they passed through the king's palace. It seemed to them that this lofty hall of illustrious Menelaus was lit by something of the sun's or the moon's splendour. When they had feasted their eyes on the sight, they went and bathed in polished baths, and after the maids washed them, rubbed them with oil and dressed them in thick cloaks and tunics, they took their places on chairs at the side of noble Menelaus, son of Atreus. A maid came with water in a beautiful golden ewer, and poured it over a silver basin for them to rinse their hands. She then drew a polished table to their side, and the faithful housekeeper brought some bread and set it by them with a choice of delicacies, helping them liberally to all she could offer. Meanwhile, a carver served them with plates of various meats he had selected from his board, and put gold cups beside them. Auburn-haired Menelaus now greeted them, saying, "Welcome. Do begin your meal. After you've dined, we shall inquire who you may be. Your lineage has left a stamp upon your looks. You are the sons of kings, those sceptred favourites of Zeus, for inferior parents could not breed men such as you." As he spoke with his own hands, he passed them the rich piece of roast that had been given him as the portion of honour, and they helped themselves to the good things spread before them. When they had satisfied their appetite and thirst, Telemachus spoke to Nestor's son, leaning close so that the rest might not hear him. "Look round this echoing hall, son of Nestor, my friend of my heart. The whole place gleams with bronze and gold, amber and silver and ivory. What an amazing quantity of treasures. The court of Zeus and Olympus must be like this inside. The sight fills me with awe." Auburn-haired Menelaus caught what he was saying and spoke words that flew. "No mortal can compete with Zeus, dear boys. His house and all his possessions are everlasting. But when it comes to men, I feel that few or none can rival me in wealth, for it took me 7 years and great hardship to amass this fortune and bring it home in my ships. My travels took me to Cyprus, to Phoenicia, and to Egypt. Ethiopians, Sidonians, Arembians, I visited them all. And I saw Libya too, where the lambs grow horns almost immediately, and their ewe use lamb 3 times in the course of the year. When nobody, from king to shepherd, need go without cheese or meat, or fresh milk either, since the ewes provide milk all the year round. Oh, but while I was wandering in those parts, making my fortune, an enemy of our house, struck down my unsuspecting brother, caught off his guard through treachery of his accursed wife. So, it gives me little pleasure to call myself the lord of all this wealth, since, as you must have heard from your fathers, whoever they may be, I have had much sorrow in my life, and I have already lost one lovely dwelling full of precious things. How happy I could be, here in my house, with even a third of my former estate, if those friends of mine were still alive who died long ago, on the broad plains of Troy, so far from Argos, where the horses graze. And yet, though I miss them all, and often grieve for them as I sit here, in our holes till sorrow finds relief in tears, and the tears cease to fall, for morning is bleak, and one soon tires of it, I do not mourn for that whole company, disconsolate as I am, so much as I for one man among them, whose loss, when I brood over, it makes sleep and eating hateful to me. For all of the Achaeans who strove at Troy, it was Odysseus who strove the hardest and achieved the most. Yet all that labour was to end in misery for him, and in a haunting sense of loss for me. So long has he been gone, leaving us in ignorance of whether he is dead or not. Now I suppose his people are already in mourning for him as dead. The old man Laertes, loyal Penelope, and Telemachus, whom he left a newborn baby in his home. Menelaus' words stirred in Telemachus an overwhelming desire to weep. And when he heard about his father, he let the tears roll down his cheeks to the ground, and with both hands held up his purple cloak in front of his eyes. Menelaus recognized him, and deliberated for a while within himself whether to wait for the young man to mention his father, or to put searching questions to him straight away. In the midst of his perplexity, Helen came down from her lofty, perfumed room, looking like Artemis with her golden distaff. Adreste drew up for her an elegant chair. Asclepia brought a rug of the softest wool, and Philo carried her silver work-basket, a gift from Alcandre, wife of Polybus, who lived in Egyptian Thebes, where the houses are furnished in more sumptuous style than anywhere else in the world. This man had given Menelaus 2 silver baths, a pair of 3-legged cauldrons, and 10 talents in gold. In addition, his wife gave Helen beautiful gifts for herself, including a golden spindle and a basket that ran on wheels that were made of silver, finished with a rim of gold. This was the basket that her lady Philo brought in, put beside her. It was full of fine-spun yarn, and the spindle with its dark wool was laid across it. Helen sat down on the chair, with a footstool for her feet, and at once asked her husband about everything. Menelaus, favourite of heaven, have we been told the names of these men who come to our house? Shall I withhold the truth, or speak the truth? I feel that I must speak. For never, in man or woman, have I seen such a likeness before. I am lost in admiration. Surely this must be great-hearted Odysseus' son Telemachus, whom his father has left as a newborn baby in his home. When you Achaeans came to Troy with war in your hearts for my sake, shameless creature that I was. Lady, replied the auburn-haired Menelaus, you point out a resemblance I can see too. Odysseus' feet were just the same, and so were his hands, the movement of his eyes, the shape of his head, and the way his hair grew. Only a moment ago, when I was talking of Odysseus, that I remembered him, and saying how much he had done and suffered for my sake. The tears came streaming down his cheeks and covered his face with his purple cloak. Nestor's son, Pisistratus, now said, Menelaus, son of Atreus, fairest of heaven, leader of your people, you are right in supposing that my friend here is Odysseus' son. But he is modest, and on a first visit like this, he is too bashful to speak uninvited in front of you, whose conversation gives as much pleasure to us as we would get from listening to a god. So Nestor of Gerenia sent me with him for escort, as Telemachus was anxious to see you, in case you might help with advice or suggest some line of action. For a son, when his father is gone, has many difficulties. To cope with at home, especially if there's nobody to help him, as is the case with Telemachus, whose father is abroad and who has no other friends at home to protect him from injustice.
"Oh, who would have thought it?"
exclaimed the auburn-haired Menelaus.
"He was indeed a well-loved friend, a friend who undertook all those heroic tasks for my sake. But now his son has come to my house. I had meant to favour him above all others of our race when he came back. If an all-seeing Zeus had allowed the two of us to bring our good ship safely home across the sea, I'd have built him a house and transplanted him from Ithaca with all his possessions, and his son and his people too. Yes, I'd have emptied one of the towns round here in my own dominions, and given him a town in Argos to live in. We would have lived in the same country, and met continually. Nor could anything have intervened to spoil our pleasure in each other's company, till the darkness of death had swallowed us up. But a jealous god must have thought otherwise, and so ensured that unhappy man was the only one who never reached his home."
Menelaus' words stirred in them all a longing for tears. Helen of Argos, child of Zeus, broke down and wept. Telemachus and Menelaus, son of Atreus, did the same. Nor could Nestor's son keep his eyes dry when he thought of his brother, the handsome Antilochus, whom the splendid son of the bright dawn had killed. Apparently that was a man named Memnon, according to my notes here. Remembering him, he turned to Menelaus now. "Menelaus, son of Atreus," he said, "whenever we talked of you at home and asked one another about you, Nestor, my old father, used always to speak of you as the wisest of men. Please be persuaded now by me, and contain your grief if you possibly can, since I for one take no delight in weeping as I dine. And besides, it's almost dawn. Not that I think it wrong to shed a tear for any man who meets his fate and dies. Indeed, what other tribute can one pay to mortality than a lock of hair from the head and a tear on the cheek? I have my own dead too. A brother. Not by any means the worst soldier in the Argive camp. You must have met Antilochus, though I never knew him myself, nor even saw him. They say he excelled above all others, a superb runner, and a great fighter."
"My friend," replied the auburn-haired Menelaus, "in saying all you said just now, you spoke and acted with the discretion of a much older man. You talk such good sense. You're the true son of your father. Good breeding cannot be hidden when a man's father has himself been blessed by Zeus. At his birth and at his marriage, like Nestor. He was lucky from first to last through all his life, and is now serenely aging in his home, with sons about him who combine good spearmanship and intelligence. Well, let us forget the tearful mood that we've fallen into, and turn our thoughts once more to supper, when they have poured some water on our hands. In the morning, Telemachus and I shall have many important matters to discuss with each other." Asphalion, one of noble Menelaus' busy squires, poured water on their hands, and they helped themselves to the good food that was spread before them. Helen, meanwhile, the child of Zeus, had an idea. Into the bowl in which their wine was mixed, she slipped a drug that had the power of robbing grief and anger of their sting, and banishing all painful memories. No one that swallowed this, dissolved in wine, could shed a single tear that day, even for the death of his mother and father, or if they put his brother or his own son to the sword, and he were there to see it done. It was one of many drugs which had been given to the daughter of Zeus by an Egyptian woman, Polydamna, the wife of Thon. The fertile soil of Egypt is very rich in herbs, many of which are beneficial in solution, though many are poisonous. And in medical knowledge, Egyptians are supreme among men. They are true sons of Paean the healer. When Helen had dropped the drug into the wine, and seeing their cups were filled, she turned to the company once more and said, Menelaus, son of Atreus, favourite of the gods and my young and noble guests, each of us has his good times, and each has his bad times. Zeus, in his omnipotence, sees to that. Then let us sit at dinner in this hall and enjoy ourselves, listening to each other's stories. I have just the one for the occasion. It is, of course, beyond me to describe me, or even number all the daring feats of dauntless Odysseus. But here is one marvellous exploit, which he had the nerve to conceive and carry through in Troy, when you Achaeans were hard pressed. He disfigured himself with appalling lacerations, and then with dirty rags on his back, looking like a slave. He slunk into the broad streets of the enemy city. Disguised as a beggar, he looked utterly different from the Odysseus of the camp by the ship. He made his way like this into the Trojan city, and was not detected by anyone. I was the only one who penetrated his disguise. But whenever I questioned him, he was clever enough to evade me. However, when I bathed and anointed him, gave him clothes to wear, and solemnly swore that I would not disclose his name to the Trojans before he returned to the huts by the ships, he gave me full detail of the Achaeans' plans, and after killing a number of Trojans with his longsword, he got back to the Argive camp with a great deal of information. The other women of Troy were loud in their lamentations, but I rejoiced, for I was already longing to go home again. I had suffered a change of heart, repenting the blindness which Aphrodite sent me when she brought me to Troy from my own dear country, and made me forsake my daughter, my bridal chamber, and a husband who lacked nothing in intelligence and looks.
My dear, said the auburn-haired Menelaus, your tale is well and truly told. I have wandered far in this world. I have looked into many hearts, and heard the counsels of the great, but never have I set eyes on a man of such endurance as the indomitable Odysseus. What he did inside the wooden horse is another example of the man's steadfastness and iron resolution. We sat inside it, with the pick of the Argive army, waiting to bring havoc and slaughter on the Trojans. When you came up, prompted, I can only suppose by some god who wished to give victory to Troy, for Prince Deiphobus came with you. 3 times you circled round our hollow lair, feeling the outside with your hands, and you called out the name of all the Argive captains in turn, altering your voice to mimic each man's wife. Diomedes and I, who were sitting right in the middle with the good Odysseus, heard you calling, and were tempted to jump up and come out, or give an instant answer from within. But Odysseus held us back, and checked our impetuosity. The rest of the warriors stayed absolutely still, though Anticlus still wanted to give you some reply. But Odysseus clapped his great hands relentlessly on his man's mouth, and so saved the whole army, holding him tight till Pallas Athene had induced you to go away. Here, the thoughtful Telemachus addressed the king. Menelaus, son of Atreus, favourite of the gods, leader of the people, it only makes things worse to think such qualities as these could not shield Odysseus from disaster. Even a heart of iron could not have saved him. But come, let us retire for the night to find pleasure in sweet sleep. At this, Helen of Argos instructed her maids to put 2 bedsteads in the portico, and to lay fine purple fleeces on them, and spread rugs over these, and some thick coverlets on top. Torch in hand, the maids went out to the hall and made the beds, to which a squire squire then conducted the guests. And so, the heroic Telemachus and Nestor's royal son spent the night in the forecourt of the palace, while Menelaus slept in his room at the back of the high buildings, and the Lady Helen of the long robes lay by his side. As soon as dawn appeared,
fresh and rosy-fingered, Menelaus with a loud war cry rose from his bed and put on his clothes. He slung a sharp sword from his shoulder, bound a fine pair of sandals on his glistening feet, and strode from his bedroom looking like a god. He went to Telemachus, and with a word of greeting, took a seat beside him.
"Telemachus," he asked, "what brought you here, over the wide seas of our pleasant land of Lacedaemon? Was it public business, or private affairs? Tell me the truth."
So a sip of water. Menelaus, son of Atreus, favourite to the gods, leader of your people, the thoughtful Telemachus replied, I came to find out whether you could give me any news of my father. I am eaten out of house and home. My rich estate has gone to ruin, and my palace is packed with a set of implacable enemies who spend their days in the wholesale slaughter of my jostling sheep and shambling cattle with their twisted horns, and in competing for my mother's hand in all their brutal pride. I am here to plead with you in the hope that you will tell me the truth about my father's unhappy end. And if by any chance you witnessed it yourself, or heard the story from some other wanderer like him. For if ever a man was born to suffer, it was he. Do not soften your account out of pity or concern for my feelings, but faithfully describe the scene that met your eyes. I beseech you, if ever my good father Odysseus, in the hard years of war at Troy, gave you his word, and kept it, remember what he did, and tell me all you know. All-Burnhand Menelaus was hot with indignation.
"How disgraceful!" he cried. "So the cowards want to creep into the brave man's bed? It's just as if a deer had put her two little unweaned fawns to sleep in a mighty lion's den, and gone back to range the high ridges and the grassy dales for pasture. Back comes the lion to his lair, and the fawns meet a grisly fate, as will the suitors at Odysseus' hand. Once, in a pleasant isle of Lesbos, I saw him stand up to Philomedes in a wrestling match, and bring him down with a mighty throw, which delighted all the Achaeans. By Father Zeus, Athene, and Apollo, that's the Odysseus I should like to see those suitors meet. A swift death and a sorry wedding there would be for all. But to answer your appeal, and the questions you ask me, I have no wish to deceive you, or to put you off with evasive answers. On the contrary, I shall pass on to you without concealment or reserve every word as I heard myself from the infallible lips of the old man of the sea, Proteus. It happened in Egypt. I had been anxious for some time to get home. But the gods delayed me there, for I had omitted to make them the correct offerings, and they never allow one to forget their commandments. There is an island called Pharos, in the rolling seas off the mouth of the Nile, a day's sailing for a ship with a soaring wind astern. In this land is a sheltered cove, where sailors put in to draw their water from a well, and afterwards launch their trim ships into the deep sea. It was here the gods kept me for 20 days, and all that time there was never a sign of the offshore breeze, a breeze that spread ships out into the wide open sea. All our supplies would have disappeared, and the men's strength had been exhausted, if one of the gods had not taken pity on me. It was Idothea, the daughter of the mighty Proteus, the old man of the sea, who came to my rescue. The sight of me touched her heart deeply when she met me, walking by myself, away from my men, whom the pangs of hunger scattered every day around the coast to angle with barbed hooks or fish. She approached me and said,
Sir, are you an utter fool? Are you completely stupid? Or have you simply given up and enjoy suffering so much that you allow yourself to be imprisoned all this time in the island and can find no means of escape, though your men are growing weaker by the day? To which I replied,
I do not know what goddess you may be, but I assure you that I have no wish to linger here. You must have offended the immortals who live in the wide heavens. You gods know everything, so tell me which of you it is that has confined me here, and cut my voyage short. And tell me also how I can return home across the teeming seas.
The fair goddess answered
me at once.
Sir, I will tell you all you need to know. This island is the haunt of that immortal seer, Proteus of Egypt, the old man of the sea, who owes allegiance to Poseidon and knows the depths of all the seas. He is my father too, so people say. If you could contrive somehow to lie in wait and catch him, he would tell you about your journey and the distances to be covered, and direct you home across the teeming seas. Not only that, favourites of Zeus, he will tell you, if you want to know, all that has happened in your palace, good or bad, while you have been away on your long, weary travels.
Will you, I replied, suggest a way by which we can waylay this ancient god? I'm afraid that he may see me first, or hear of my plans in advance and keep away. A god is not easily defeated by a mortal.
I will tell you the plan in detail, she replied. When the sun has climbed to its highest point, the sage-old sea god emerges from his native salt, hidden by the dark ripples stirred by the west wind. Once out, he makes for his sleeping place in the shelter of a cave, and the seals, the children, the sea nymphs heave themselves up from the grey surf and go to sleep in herds around him, exhaling the pungent smell of the sea depths. Pick 3 men from your crew, with care, the best you have on board, and at daybreak I will lead you to the spot and find you each a place to lie in. But I must tell you how the old sorcerer proceeds. First he will go his round and count the seals. Then when he has counted them and seen that they are all there, he will lie down among them like a shepherd with his flocks of sheep. Directly you see him settled, summon all your strength and courage and hold him down, however hard he strains and struggles to escape. He will try all kinds of transformations and change himself into every sort of beast on earth, and into water, and into blazing fire. But hold him fast and grip him all the tighter, and when he speaks at last and asks you questions in his natural shape, just as he was when you saw him lie down to rest, relax your pressure, let the old man go, and ask him which god is making difficulties for you now, and how to reach your home along the teeming seaways. Hiya, Meister, how you doing? Oh, well.
After giving me this advice, she disappeared into the billowing waves, and I went to where my ships were resting on the sand. My heart was dark and troubled. When I had reached the sea and found my ship, we prepared our supper. The solemn night descended on us, and we lay down to sleep at the water's edge. As soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy-fingered, I set out with many prayers to the heaven, along the shore of the far-flung sea, accompanied by 3 men from my crews whom I could most rely on in any emergency. Idothea had vanished into the wide waters of the sea, but she now returned carrying the skins of 4 seals, all freshly flayed, as part of the plan to deceive her father. She scooped out lures for us on the sandy beach and sat down to await our arrival. When we came up to her, she ensconced us in our places, and covered each man with a skin. Our vigil might have been unsupportable, because the vile smell of the fish-fed seals was peculiarly trying. Who would choose a monster of the deep for a bedfellow? However, the goddess herself thought of a miraculous remedy, and came to our rescue with some ambrosia,
which she applied to each man's nostrils.
It was sweet-smelling stuff and killed the stench of the seals. So there we waited, patiently, right through the morning. Then, multitudes of seals came up from the sea and lay down in rows along the beach to sleep. At midday, the old man himself emerged, found his sleek seals already there, and went the rounds to make his count. Entirely unsuspicious of the fraud, he included us as the first 4 in his flock. Then he too lay down to sleep. With a shout, we charged and grabbed hold of him, but the old man's skill and cunning had not deserted him. He began by turning into a bearded lion, and then into a snake, and after that a panther and a giant bear. He changed into running water too, and a great tree in leaf. But we set our teeth and clung on grimly. When at last the old man who knew so many tricks grew weary, he broke into speech and began asking me questions. "Tell me now, Menelaus," he said, "which of the gods conspired with you to waylay and capture me? And why did you need to do it?" "Old man," I answered, Why are you prevaricating? You know as well as I do how long I have been a prisoner on this island, unable to escape and growing weaker every day. So tell me now, in your divine omniscience, which god it is that has confined me here and interrupted my journey, and tell me also how I can reach my home across the teeming deep." "Before embarking," said the old man in reply, "you should have offered rich sacrifice to Zeus and all the other gods if you wished to get home fast across the wide dark sea. It is not your fate to reach your own country and see your friends and fine house again until you have sailed heaven-fed waters of the Nile once more and made ceremonial offerings to the everlasting gods who live in the broad sky. When that is done, the gods will let you start this voyage that you have set your hearts on." Now, when I heard him tell me to take the long and weary trip over the misty seas to Egypt once again, my heart sank. Nevertheless, I found my voice and made him this reply. "Old man, I shall do exactly what you advise, but there is something else I wish you to tell me. Did all of my countrymen, whom Nestor and I left behind when we sailed from Troy, reach home in safety with their ships? Or were there any who came to grief in some accident at sea, or died in their friends' arms though the fighting was over?" "Son of Atreus," he replied, "why do you question me on these matters? You have no need to know or to probe my understanding. I warn you that your tears will flow soon enough when you have listened to my tale. For many were killed, and many too were spared. Yet only 2 of the commanders of your armies lost their lives when homeward bound. I need not speak of the fighting, since you took part in that yourself. But there is a 3rd who, though still alive, is a prisoner somewhere in the vastness of the seas. Ajax, to take him first, was wrecked in his long-oared ships by Poseidon, who drove him on to the great cliff of Gairai, and then rescued him from the surf. In fact, he would have evaded his doom, in spite of Athene's enmity, if in his blind folly he had not talked so arrogantly, boasting that he had escaped from the hungry jaws of the sea in defiance of the gods. His loud-voiced blasphemy came to the ears of Poseidon, who seized his trident in his powerful hands, struck the Garian rock and split it into 2. One half stood firm, but the fragment he had severed, where Ajax had been resting when the blind impulse took him, crashed into the sea, and carried him with it into the vast and rolling depths, where he drank the salt water and drowned. But your brother Agamemnon contrived somehow to circumvent his fate. and slipped away in his great ships with the goddess Hera's help. Yet when he had nearly reached the heights of Cape Malea, a hurricane caught him, and with heavy groans he found himself driven over the teeming seas towards the borders of the land.
Thank you, Pickle Pig. I really appreciate that. Pickle Pig, I normally do a little thing whenever someone follows. Thank you very much. Yeah. Let's just go, yeah.
Yet when he nearly reached the heights of Cape Malea, a hurricane caught him, and with heavy groans he found himself driven over the teeming seas towards the borders of the land where Thyestes, in the old days, and now his son Aegisthus, had their home. But in due course there came the chance of a safe return even from there. The gods turned the winds round, and home they came. Agamemnon set foot on the land of his fathers with a happy heart, and as he touched it, kissed his native earth. The warm tears rolled down his cheeks. He was so glad to see his country again. But his arrival was observed by a spy in a watchtower, whom the cunning Aegisthus had posted there with the promise of 2 talents of gold.
Thank you so much, Pickle. That's incredibly kind of you. I realized it was Pickle JPEG. Pickle. Thank you so much, Pickle. First time chat as well. You get another blow for that one. That's incredibly generous of you, Pickle. Thank you so much. I do hope you're enjoying their show.
This man had been on the lookout for a year in case the king should land unannounced.
Oh, I'll just read a bit before that, actually.
But his arrival was observed by a spy in a watchtower, whom the cunning Aegisthus had posted there with the promise of 2 talents of gold for his service. This man had been on the lookout for a year in case the king should land unannounced, slip by, and himself launch an attack. He went straight to the palace and informed the usurper. Then Augustus devised a clever trap. He selected 20 of the best soldiers from the town, left them in ambush in one part of the palace, and, after ordering a banquet to be prepared in another part, set out in a chariot to bring home the king, with his heart full of ugly thoughts. Agamemnon, never guessing that he was going to his doom, came up with him from the coast, and Aegisthus feasted him, then killed him, as a man might fell an ox at its manger. Not a single one of the king's followings left, nor of Aegisthus's company either. They were killed in the palace. To a man. This was his story, and it broke my heart. I sat down on the sands and wept. I had no further use for life, no wish to see the sunshine any more. But when I had had enough of tears, and writhing on the sands, the old sea prophet spoke to me again. Menelaus, he said, you have wept too long. Enough of this incontinent grief which gains us nothing. Better make every effort to get back to your own land as quickly as you can. For either you will find Aegisthus still alive, or Orestes will have forestalled you by killing him, and you may be in time for the funeral feast. And these words, in spite of my distress, my heart and spirits were cheered. You have accounted for 2, I said. But who is the third, the one who is still alive, but a prisoner somewhere in the vastness of the seas? Or is he dead now? I wish to hear, whatever sorrow it may cause. The third, said Proteus, is Odysseus, Laertes' son, whose home is in Ithaca. I caught a glimpse of him on an island, in the nymph Calypso's home, with tears streaming down his cheeks. She keeps him captive there. For without a ship and a crew to carry him so far across the sea, it is impossible for him to reach home. And now, Menelaus, favourite of Zeus, hear your own destiny. It is not your fate to die in Argos, where the horses graze. Instead, the Immortals will send you to the Elysian fields at the world's end, to join auburn-haired Rhadamanthus in the land where living is made easy for mankind, where no snow falls, no strong winds blow, and there is never any rain. But day after day, the west wind's tuneful breeze comes in from the ocean to refresh its people. This is because you are the husband of Helen, and in the eyes of the gods, son-in-law to Zeus. The old man finished and sank into the heaving waters of the sea, while I went off towards the ships with my heroic comrades, my heart in a turmoil. When I had reached the sea and found my ship, we prepared our supper. The solemn night descended on us, and we lay down to sleep on the surf-beaten shore. As soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy-fingered, we first of all ran our fleet down to the good salt water, and put the masts into sail on board our trim ships. The crew then climbed in, found their place at the oars, and struck the grey surf rhythmically with their blades, and so returned to the heaven-fed waters of the Nile, where I moored, made the proper ritual offerings, and after appeasing the deathless gods, built a mound of earth, so that the glory of Agamemnon would last forever. When all this was done, I set out for home, and the Immortals sent me a favourable wind and brought me quickly back to my own beloved land. And now, my friend, do stay on in my palace. Stay for 12 days or so, and then I'll send you off in style. You shall have glorious gifts from me, 3 horses and a splendid chariot. I'll give you a lovely cup as well to remind you of me all your life when you make drink offerings to the immortal gods.
Son of Atreus, the thoughtful Telemachus replied, do not keep me here on a lengthy visit. It is true that your tales and talk so delight me that I could easily stop with you for a year and never feel homesick for Ithaca or my parents. But my friends must already be tired of waiting for me in sacred Pylos. Now you prolong my stay. As for the gift you offer me, please make it a keepsake I can carry. Horses I will not take to Ithaca. I'd rather leave them here to grace your own stables. For your kingdom is a broad plain, where clover and galangal grow in plenty, with wheat and rye and broad-eared white barley. Whereas in Ithaca, there is no room for horses to run, nor any meadows at all. It is a pasture land for goats, and more attractive to my eyes than the sort of land where horses thrive. None of the islands that slope down to the sea is rich in meadows, or suitable for chariots. Ithaca least of all. These remarks made Menelaus with a loud war cry smile. He patted Telemachus with his hand and replied,
I like the way you talk, dear boy. One can see you have the right blood in your veins. Very well. I will change my gifts. 'Tis easily done. You shall have the loveliest and most precious of the treasures that my palace holds. I'll give you a mixing bowl of wrought metal. It is solid silver with a rim of gold, and round the top, and was made by Hephaestus himself. I had it from Thedemus, the heroic king of Sidon, when I stayed at his palace on my journey home. That is the present I should like you to take. During their talk, the guests began to arrive at the great king's palace. They drove up their own sheep
and brought heartwarming wine. Their bread was sent in for them by their elegantly dressed wives. This was how they prepared for their banquet in Menelaus' hall. In front of Odysseus' palace, the suitors, in their usual high and mighty way... Oh, hang on, let's take a pause there. I think we'll get to the end of this book and then we'll leave it for today. But it's almost, we only have a little bit left. In front of Odysseus' palace, the suitors, in their usual high and mighty way, were once again amusing themselves, with throwing the discus and the javelin on the levelling ground. Antinous and the handsome Eurymachus, the boldest spirits of the gang, and its acknowledged leaders, were sitting by when Phronnius' son, Noemon, came up to them with a question for Antonius. Oh, hang on just a moment. Just double checking something, actually. Okay, sorry, just double checking something about. What's saying? Yeah, sorry. Phronnius' son, Noemon, came up to them with a question for Antonius. Have we any idea, he asked him, when Telemachus comes back from Pylos? Or don't we know? He's gone off with my ship. I happen to need it to cross over to Elis, where the fields are big and I keep 12 brood mares, with their sturdy mules, not yet weaned or broken in. I want to drive one off and train him. His news filled them with consternation, for they had no idea that Telemachus had gone to Pylos, but thought he was somewhere in the neighbourhood on the farm, among the flocks perhaps, or with the swineherd. Antonius, Eupeithes' son, turned to him and said, I want the truth. When did he leave? And what young men went with him? Did he take men from the town, or did he make up a crew from his own serfs and servants, as he might easily? And tell me this too, so that I can be quite clear. Did he use force and go off with your ship against your wishes? Or did you give it willingly when he asked? I gave it him, said Noemon, of my own accord. What would anyone do when asked a favour by a man of his standing, with so much trouble on his mind? It'd be very hard to refuse him. As for the young men who went with him, they're the best in the land next to ourselves. For captain, they had Mentor. I saw him embark. Him? Or some god. Anyhow, it was exactly like him. And that's what puzzles me. I saw the good Mentor here only yesterday at dawn. He certainly boarded my ship for Pylos that night. With this, Noemon went back to his father's house, leaving the two proud lords appalled and furious. They made the rest leave their games and sit down together, while Antonius, Eupeithes' son, held forth and gave vent to his fury. His heart was was seething with black passion, and his eyes were like points of flame. "Damnation take it!" he cried. What a coup Telemachus has had! What a coup Telemachus has had! The audacity to bring off this expedition that we swore would come to nothing. With all of us against him, the young puppy calmly sets out, after picking the best men in the place and getting them to launch a ship for him. Oh, he is going to give us still more trouble. I hope Zeus clips his wings before he reaches manhood. However, give me a fast ship and a crew of 20, and I'll lie up for him in the straits between Ithaca and the bluffs of Samos, catch him on his way, and a grim ending there will be to see trip of his in search of his father. The others welcomed the scheme and told him to carry it out. Then they got up and moved off to the palace. Before long, Penelope heard about the plot that her suitors were hatching. It was Medon the Herald, who let her know. For while they were working out the plot in the courtyard, he had been eavesdropping and heard all they said. He set off straight away to the palace to tell Penelope. Immediately he crossed the threshold to her room and she said, "Herald, what errands have the young lords given you? Is it to tell that King Odysseus' maids to drop their work and prepare them a feast? Oh, how I hate the pursuit of me when the way they swarm around. They're a feast here again if I could stop them. Yes, the whole gang of you that came here day by day, fleecing us out of our livelihood by my prudent son's inheritance. I suppose you never listened years ago when you were children, and your fathers told you how Odysseus treated them. Never a harsh word. Never an injustice to a single person in the land. How different from the usual run of kings, favouring one man, persecuting the next. Whereas Odysseus never wronged a soul, which only serves to show you and your shameful behaviour up, and proves how easily past kindness can be forgotten."
My queen," replied the fair-minded Medon, "I only wish that this was the worst of your troubles. Your suitors planning a far greater and more shocking crime. Zeus grant that they may not succeed. They're all set now on assassinating Telemachus with a sharp sword as he comes back from his home. He's gone to holy Pylos and Lacedaemon to seek news of his father."
When Penelope heard this, her knees trembled, and her heart grew faint. For a long time, she found it impossible to speak. Her eyes filled with tears. The words stuck in her throat. At length, she managed to say, "Tell me, Herald, why has my son gone? There is no call whatever for him to venture on these fast ships that sailors use like chariots, or drive him across the wide seas. Does he wish his very name to be forgotten in the world?"
The astute Medon replied, "I do not know whether some god urged him, or on his own feelings suggested this journey to Pylos. But his purpose was to find out about his father's return, or to learn what end he met."
Medon went off to the palace. Penelope was overwhelmed by the anguish that racked her. She could not even bear to sit on one of the many chairs in her apartments, but sank down on the threshold of her lovely room, weeping bitterly, while all the maids of her household, young and old, stood round her sobbing. "Listen, my friends," she said between her sobs. "Is there a woman of my time whom Zeus has treated worse than me? I had a husband years ago, the best and bravest of the Danaans, a lion-hearted man, famous from Hellas to the heart of Argus. That husband I have lost. And now the whirlwinds have snatched my darling son from the house without a word. I was not even told that he had gone, not even by you, who must have known it well enough. How cruel of you all to not have thought of rousing me from my bed when he went to his hollow black ship. Had I known that he had his journey in mind, I swear he would have stayed, or were determined to go, or left me dead at home. But hurry, one of you. Call my old servant Dolius, whom my father gave me when I came here, and who looks after my orchard now. He shall go straight to Laertes, sit down beside him, and tell him the whole story. Perhaps Laertes may hit upon some scheme, and come out of his retreat to appeal to the people, who seem intent on wiping out his and Odysseus' royal line." "Dear lady," said Eurycleia, the fond old nurse, "whether you kill me with a cruel knife, or let me live on in the palace, I cannot hold my tongue. I knew the whole thing. It was I who gave him bread and wine and all he asked for. But he made me solemnly promise not to tell you for a dozen days, or till you missed him yourself and found that he had started. He didn't want the tears to spoil your lovely cheeks." Come, go and wash and put on some fresh clothes. Then go to your room upstairs with your waiting women, and pray to Athene, daughter of Zeus. She may still save him, even from the jaws of death. Don't trouble an old man who has troubles enough already. I cannot believe that the happy gods detest Acrisius' line. Someone surely will survive to own these lofty halls and the fertile fields beyond. In this way, Eurycleia hushed Penelope's sobs and cleared her eyes of tears. So the Queen Penelope, when she had washed and changed her clothes, went to her room upstairs with the waiting women, filled a basket with sacrificial grains, and prayed to Athene. Hear me, Atritone, unwearied one, daughter of Zeus, who bears the aegis. If ever Odysseus in his wisdom burnt the fat thighs of a heifer or sheep to honour you in his palace, remember his offerings now. Save my dear son for me, and guard him from harm at the hands of these brutal suitors. At the end of her prayer, she uttered a great cry. The goddess heard her petition, but in the shadowy hall the suitors broke into uproar. One of the callous youths called out, "It sounds as if our much-courted queen is going to give us a wedding! Little does she know that her son's death has been arranged." This was their boastful way, though it was they who little guessed what had really been arranged. Antonius, however, rose up and silenced them. "Are you mad?" he cried. "None of this boasting, or somebody may go inside and tell. Keep your mouths shut now and disperse. You know the plan we all agreed on. Let's carry it out." Without further ado, he picked the 20 best men, and they left for their ship and the seashore, where they began by running the black vessel down into deep water, and put the mast and sail on board, fixed the oars on their leather slings, all slip-shape, and spread the white sail out. Meanwhile, their eager squires had brought down their armour. They moored the boat well out in the water and came on shore, where they had their supper and waited for evening to fall. Wise Penelope lay there, in her upper room, without touching food or drink, wondering whether her innocent son would escape death, or fall a victim to her brutal suitors. Doubts and fears chased through her mind, as they do through a lion's when he finds himself surrounded by the bearers and the beaters and stands in terror as they stealthily close in. But at last, a comforting sense of drowsiness overcame her. She sank back, she fell asleep, and all her limbs relaxed. Athene of the flashing eyes now had another idea. King Icarius had another daughter besides Penelope, called Iptheme, who had married Eumelus and lived in Pherae. The goddess made a phantom now, exactly like this woman, and sent it to Odysseus' palace to save the unhappy and weeping queen from more distress and further floods of tears. It entered her bedroom by the strap that worked the bolt, stood by her head, and spoke to her. "Are you asleep, Penelope, worn out with grief? I do assure you that the gods, who live such easy lives themselves, do not mean you to be so distressed. For it is settled that your son shall come home safe. The boy has done no wrong in their eyes." "Sister, what brings you here?" Penelope replied out of her sweet sleep at the gate of dreams. "We're not used to seeing you with us, living as you do so far away. You tell me to forget my sorrows and all these anxieties that give my mind and heart no rest from pain, as though I had not married and then lost the best and bravest of our race, my noble lion-hearted husband, famous from Hellas to the heart of Argos. And now my beloved son but whom I grieve even more than for his father, has sailed away in a great ship. A child like him, untrained for action or debate, I tremble for him when I think what he may do, what they may do to him where he is gone, or what may happen to him on the sea. He has so many enemies plotting against him, and thirsting for his blood before he reaches home. Be brave, and conquer these wild fears, said the shadowy wraith in reply. He has gone with such escort as any man might pray to have beside him. Pallas Athene in all her power. And it is she who, in pity for your grief, has sent me here to bring this message to you. You really are divine, the wise Penelope said in reply, and have heard the voice of a god. Tell me about his unfortunate father, too. Is he alive? Somewhere. And can he see the sunshine still? Or is he dead by now, and down in Hades' halls? Of Odysseus, whether alive or dead, said the shadowy wraith, I will not give you any news at all. It does no good to utter empty words. With that, it slipped past the bolt by the doorpost and into the breath of the wind. But Icarius' daughter, walking with a start, drew a warm sense of comfort from the vividness of this dream that had flown to her in the dark of the night. Meanwhile, her suitors had embarked and were sailing the high seas with murder for Telemachus in their hearts. Out in the open strait, midway between Ithaca and rugged coast of Samos, lies the rocky isles of Asteris, which, small as it is, can offer ships a harbour with 2 entrances. It was here that the Achaean lords set their ambush for Telemachus. And that's the end of book 4. The next book, we shall finally be meeting our hero Odysseus. We'll finally see him for the first time. But yeah, that was the end of book 4. This is the opening of it all, the opening setting for the whole story. We're going to see what's going on now. But as usual, I do have a lot of notes written in my book here, which I wouldn't mind just having a quick brush over, just for anyone interested in the education. Thank you, Telemachus. This was fun. No worries, Pickle. Yeah, I said Pickle Pig before, didn't I? Not Pickle JPEG. Apologies for that, my friend. So yeah, just a few things here. So it mentions early on. This is a very long book, far longer than any of the first 3 books so far. There are a lot of figures mentioned here. A lot of figures which are common, are seen all throughout Greece, all throughout Greek mythology. Neoptolemus, which is Achilles' son, as mentioned beforehand. And mentioned the god Proteus and his daughter. What was her name again? Epithe, I think it was. And a lot of characters are given names who are just servants, basically. But it's like, hey, they're in the home of a king. They deserve names, I guess would be the idea behind it. Obviously, there's a lot of opulence in this. There, all these silver basins, these really nice polished tables, purple fabrics and rugs and cloths and such. Purple was, and always kind of has been, a symbol of wealth. It's an extremely expensive dye to get, or it was in the day, and so it was a sign of extreme wealth that they're willing to just so easily give these out. There's a lot of repetition you can see with a lot of the epithets here. It always describes Dawn as fresh and rosy-fingered. It's very, very funny. I always like the idea of Dawn being fresh and rosy-fingered. But yeah, lots of epithets for Menelaus as well. Auburn-haired is the common one. It's used beforehand in the book so far, and it uses it lots here as well. Lots of what's it? King of Kings, the Menelaus, the war cry, all these kind of things show he's a great fighter and very handsome and all that. But yes, he's it's interesting. One thing which actually, there's two things I really want to talk about, which are the stories that Helen and Menelaus mention. Well, actually, there is one thing here as well. So Telemachus talks about, oh wow, I bet Zeus's court it must be just like this, and he's meaning this in like the most complimentary way possible. But like Menelaus comes in to correct him on this. Like, nope, no one can compete with Zeus, my friend. No one can compete with that. However, I understand I'm a very wealthy man, so among men, perhaps it is one of the best. Perhaps no one. It says here, I feel that few or none can rival me in wealth, for it took me 7 years and great hardship to amass this fortune. But even with all this wealth, he could be very prideful. Here, he's very much like, no, boys, it's nope. I am not as wealthy as a god, and it's interesting. So a lot of the kings here, it's quite interesting. I think there's a bit of a weird dichotomy here as well, a bit of contrast, or a bit. It's at odds with itself almost, where you have Helen, you have Penelope talk about, oh, all these kings are nowhere near as good as Odysseus. They all favor individuals, but then all the kings have been shown to be very good people. Though I guess it's also she's biased towards her husband because she's absolutely enamored with the guy. But yeah. Again, it brings up the story of Agamemnon being killed by Aegisthus and Orestes taking revenge. All this repeating theme of a revenge story. And again, within the timeline of this at the moment, this is like news. Orestes has only recently killed Aegisthus and got revenge for his dad within the last like few years or so. So it's still it's still new and it's still spreading around. I was like, it's big gossip, right? It's a big story, but yeah, there's this constant theme of revenge and people being revenged upon, right? And it's it says here, Menelaus talks about how the wholesale slaughter of my what was it now? Yeah, with indignation, he talks about how Odysseus will be smiting all of them. A swift death and a sorry wedding there will be for all. He's so sure of Odysseus' strength that he will overcome any of these foul suitors. I'll just turn the music back on, actually, just whilst we're talking. Be nice to have one. Yeah, what else was there? Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the stories which they give. Oh, hang on, just looking at some of the notes I have here as well. Oh, sorry, yeah, I was just having a read here just to make sure I got it right. So yeah, Helen of Troy comes in, obviously very important figure throughout this whole... I can't remember the whole saga now, the whole Troy saga. There's a whole collection of stories though. But Helen comes in, she's a bit cheeky, but kind of charming. She's a bit rude, honestly, but she is like... She's one of those people who's kind of rude and cheeky, but is like charming enough to get away with it. So, what is it, like a... Have we been told the names of these men? Who come to our house? Shall I withhold the truth or speak the truth? I feel that I must speak, for never in man or woman have I seen such a likeness before. So she knows instantly who they are, which is an interesting thing here, because are you familiar? This is why I started reading it. Okay, so Pickle, just to give a bit of context, I studied the Odyssey many years ago. I think it's fine, Pickle, don't worry. It's a few weeks ago now. I studied the Odyssey many years ago. I recently watched Epic Musical and listened to it. Oh, obviously, anyway. I thought it was very fun. I thought it was a very good show. Very good. Lots of great songs in it. If I'm being honest, I think the latter part of it was a bit rushed. But overall, I think it's a great show. Great musical. And I'm like, you know what, this has got me in the mood. I want to go back and read the Odyssey again because I like to do reading streams. Before you were here a couple of weeks ago, I was reading Bambi by Felix Salten, the original Bambi, Bambi Life in the Woods. Great book if you never had a chance to read it, by the way. I would highly recommend reading Bambi. It's not a very long book either, and it's a very easy read. This, on the other hand, is quite a tough read. I think for many people struggle reading the Odyssey. Because it's dense. It's very dense. A lot of it is this poetic language, which is very flowery and repetitive. Again, rosy-fingered dawn. It keeps using the same epithet for dawn. And it does a lot of things. It lists a lot of things. Lists a lot of objects, a lot of people, which may make it difficult for some people to read. But, I mean, the Odyssey is, like, come on. It's, like, one of the most influential pieces of writing ever, essentially, right? Like, at least for a European and later American audience, the Odyssey is probably and along with the Iliad, Odyssey and the Iliad are probably the most influential works of written literature, potentially ever, or at least two of the most influential works ever. Right? They've influenced so much of both language and society and stories we tell today. And no, honestly, I think Epic's a really good show, and you are right, it does differ a lot. I think in ways which work well for its medium, though, right? I don't think the entire book put to stage verbatim would work well as a musical. I don't think it would. But I think Epic does a very good job of it. But yeah, no. I started reading it a few weeks ago, so I'm like, you know what? Man, Epic's really good. I want to learn I'm trying to learn all the lyrics to Dangerous at the moment. It's a very, very good song, yeah. But yeah, no, that's why I've been reading the Odyssey lately, because Epic's got me in the mood for it. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so Helen comes down, instantly knows who they are. And there's an interesting thing here where she talks about the story. So it mentions that Helen is the daughter of Zeus. Interesting thing about gods and children of gods. So many people, I think because they've been partly misinformed by the story of Heracles, think, oh, if you're a god, if you're a child of a god, you have, like, superpowers. No... Kind of. Okay. So, you know what? Heracles did not gain his magical super strength from being born as a son of Zeus. Rather, he got it from drinking Hera's breast milk. And it gave him this, like, permanent strength boost, I guess. It gives him the strength to hold up the very heavens itself. But anyway, most of the time, if you are a child of a god, there's two things here. Number one, you will get some kind. Calypso being what is their story? Calypso is like a nymph. She's like nymphs are all kind of like minor goddesses, I guess. They're all lesser gods. Nymphs obviously generally being related to water. There's almost always like a nymph for a river or part of the sea or something like that. There's hundreds of nymphs, by the way. Most of them are not named throughout stories. I'm sure many of them have different names, the same names used, and names overlap. There's no, like, I don't think any one canon list. I think even in what's it called? The big cosmology book written for Greece 1,000 years ago. I can't remember what it's called now. Why is she the only one stuck on an island? What's her island? For one, it's where she lives. So mayhaps that is why. She is only a minor god though, Meister, so a minor nymph, so a lot of the time it's just because she's there because she is there. Actually, bring out Epic because I think she fought alongside, I guess, the gods alongside the Titans. Well, I can't remember if they came afterwards. Again, to try and put like a definitive timeline in anything is a fool's errand, right? This was not okay. The Greeks didn't have like a written religion. It's a little hard to understand, maybe, or to grasp for a lot of people. Not to insult anyone's intelligence here, obviously, but it can be a little hard to grasp when a lot of religions nowadays are very clearly defined by a seminal text which outlines all the lore and all the rules for a religion, right? The Bible being the most obvious one for a lot of English-speaking places. Not so with this, right?
this was before. This was like pre-Christianity by 3,000 years, no, 2,000, 3,000 years or something, right? Like, there was no one literary canon for it or whatnot. Actually, I say that even then the Bible has had multiple versions of it, which test how canon things are. Anyway, like, you look at like Islam or Judaism as well. Even Hinduism has a ton of text. But there's no one canon text for it all. Rather, it was stories. It was all an oral tradition. Homer, writing this, was recording the story in his version of it. But this had been a story which people would have known all around. People would have known the story of Odysseus and his tales back home, and his battles with the Cyclope and all that. That would have been a thing. And trying to gauge a full timeline for when individual events happened can be difficult, and it's probably not even worth it, if I'm being honest. If you were writing a story about this and you want a narrative perspective, maybe that will be the case. Hang on, what was the Greek book on cosmology called? What's it called now? The Theogony? Was it I think it was the Theogony. I think it was called. Like, there are lots of records we have with these kind of things. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, there are also a lot of gods which were just kind of part of society and weren't necessarily storied. The god I think of the most is Hestia, right? The oldest child of Kronos even. She was the goddess of hearth and home. As a religion, because the thing is, that's the point, right? It's very easy for us to just take these as just characters, right? Even like the Epic the Musical, they are characters in that. Obviously they are, but they're in a play, but they're characters. What's also important to remember, though, is that in real life, these were religious figures. These were figures of worship who people governed their daily lives and laws around, right? Hestia is an example of a figure who was not very well storied, if I'm being honest. Like, there's not a lot of written records of stories we have on her. But from what we have found, it seems that she was a very important figure of worship. As, again, she was the goddess of hearth and home. She was the reason you were able to have a roof over your head a lot of the time. So, yeah, it was one of those things. It kind of reminds a little bit of Loki, the Nordic deity, who we actually don't know a lot about his worship. He's kind of the inverse, that where we have a lot of stories about Loki, but we don't know what his primary source of worship was, nor if his worship was important. There's lots of theories. Potentially a fire god, that may be a mistranslation. Potentially his lack of active worship may have been a sign that he was just worshipped in daily life. He may have been more of a domestic god, perhaps some kind of house god or some kind of fishing god, because there's lots of stories about him turning into fish. But that's going into a northern Europe, and we're in the south here. We're in the south with Greece. But yeah, just a few things here. So, back to what I was saying before about gods and abilities being passed on. Oops. So, first off, you did not get super strength, unfortunately. You were, like, better than most people. You had, like, superhuman qualities to you. But they're kind of, like, lame. Like, one of the sons of Poseidon, I can't remember his name now, Paisis something. He was, like, really good at horseback riding. His godly superpower was super equestrianism. And it's like, great, cool. That's gonna look really great when the Avengers call you in. So what's your power? Like, I can ride a horse really good. Okay, is that it? Yeah, my horse riding the best. No, okay. But yeah, also notably here is that you only pass on godly abilities or some kind of divine presence if your father was the god. If you were a daughter of a goddess, if you were the child of a goddess, no, it wouldn't. All times it doesn't work. This is actually kind of plays into the story of Achilles, where Achilles was the child of a human man and a nymph, whose name I can't remember. I can't remember their names. But everyone knows. I think very common story knows. He was dipped in these magical waters of this magical river. I think it was one of the rivers of Hades, and I can't remember. But he gets dipped in these magical river because his mother she's a nymph, so she is a lesser deity essentially, but she is like doesn't want him to get hurt, so she
dips him in this water, which makes him invincible. All except for his ankles, because she was holding him by the ankles when she dipped him in. And then it's like, oh, his heels are his weak spot. It's his only weak spot. And, then he gets killed by the poison arrow. I'm like, that was your Achilles heel. We all know that. But yeah, you only get powers if if your dad is the god. And you can see that here with Helen of Troy here. So, or I guess it was Helen of Argos now, realistically. But, she can tell straight away, oh, well, this is the son of Telemachus. This is Telemachus, son of Odysseus. And this is, what's his name? Was it Pisistratus? Yeah, it was Pisistratus, son of Nestor. And she can see this straight away. She has this, superhuman sixth sense or superhuman perception. And she talks about the story of when Odysseus disguised himself as a beggar and snuck into the palace of Troy. And spoke with Helen. She was like, oh, I could tell it with him straight away, but I didn't give away the disguise. And she can see that because she is the child of Zeus. And even then, the idea that she drugs the men. She drugs the men with the, I heard Achilles was depressed in the song that told him to come down. I don't understand what that reference means, Meister, for being honest. Are you talking about the book, The Song of Achilles? I've never read that book. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I don't want to read it, if I'm being honest. If anything, I've not read the original Iliad yet. I've only read segments of it, never in full. Which I'm really annoyed at myself before, because I've read the Iliad. No, I've read the Odyssey. I've read the Aeneid, the Roman sequel. But I've never read the Iliad in full, only excerpts of it, which I'm very annoyed about myself for. Maybe we can do the Iliad after this. What do people think of that? Reading the Iliad? Yes? No? Maybe? Yes? Okay. Oh yeah, Helen here, she drugs them to be super happy, gives them a happy drug, and she can do that because she's the daughter of Zeus. Like, what's gonna happen to her? Like, fucking really? She can do all these things because she's the daughter of Zeus, she's the daughter of a goddess. And yeah, again, she can see through Odysseus' disguise. It talks about when they built the horse, the wooden horse, she is brought out, and she's able to change her voice, alter her voice to mimic each man's wife. Again, this kind of weird godly ability which she's got because she is the child of Zeus. So she can afford to do these kind of things. And talking about gods, let's talk about the story of Menelaus and Proteus. So again, Proteus is a lesser deity. Yeah, Idothea is his daughter, and again, another nymph. They're all nymphs and lesser gods here. And it talks about how, a god, it says here, a god is not easily defeated by a mortal. Now, Menelaus, as this legendary hero, is kind of given an exemption from this rule. Obviously, he still struggles. It's a big, he gets to a big wrestling match with this shapeshifter he doesn't even need to be an animal. He can turn, it says he can turn into running water and fire, and turns into a tree as well. He can just turn into anything. By the way, Proteus is where we get the term Protean, which I'd first heard about from the game's Pokemon, because Greninja had, and I think Kecleon has it as well, and also I think Masquerada has it as well, I can't remember. They had the Protean ability in Pokemon, which changes your type depending on the move you use, and it also comes to this god Proteus. Yes, we have this wrestling match taking place between them, and he's this hero and with relations to the gods because he's married to Helen now, so he's allowed to win a fight against a god. Now he can't kill him because he's an immortal, right? He is an immortal being, and also even then, he's allowed to do this because he's also guided by another divinity in this, Idothea. By the way, how sad is that, right? Your own daughter says, hey, here's how you can beat up my old dad. But, he's given guidance by Idothea about how to do this. And you'll see this a lot throughout the book, where things happen where normal men may not be able to do it, but they're given guidance by Deus, by higher beings. And it's okay, you have this guidance, and with your own strength of character as a man above men, you can do this. And yeah, that's what happens here. So it's just an interesting thing where heroes can be shown to beat gods, but only lesser gods, right? You're not gonna...
spoil epic for anyone who's not heard it. He actually Odysseus gets into a fight with Poseidon, which is not something which happened here, nor would ever happen realistically. Though there have been cases. There was one case which I had a note about very early on. I can't remember it now. Like there was only one hero really who was very famously able to injure a god. And by the way, Greek gods, the deus as it would be, I guess. Would that be the Greek word for it? Yeah. They can be hurt. Greek gods can be hurt and they can feel pain. But yeah, you wouldn't really have to beat one in a fight. Like, especially like someone like Poseidon, who is this major god who's worshipped by many and controls the land and seas at will. Okay, I can't find this note I had about it, but that's okay. But yeah, I just thought it was an interesting note to talk about. Just this like battle between Menelaus and Proteus. Oh, also, it talks about Ajax here. There are two Ajax in Greek mythology, both of which appear in this Troy saga. I just one of them dies here. This is Ajax. Hang on, what were the two Ajaxes called? There we go. Okay. Ajax, son of Oileus, also known as I've commonly known him as Ajax the Lesser. There's another one, Ajax the Greater. Yeah, there's two of them. There's Ajax the Greater and Ajax the Lesser. Both of them are in this timeline. Both of them took place in the war at Troy. Yeah, what are the names of this guy? I'm just having a look here. Ajax and Telamon. Yeah, Greater Ajax, Ajax the Great, Telamonian Ajax. Generally Ajax the Great or Ajax the Greater or Telamonian Ajax are the good one. For the bad one, it's generally like Ajax the Greater or Aeolian Ajax. They're both considered heroes, but Ajax the Lesser is definitely like he's a sign of what not to do. He's a skilled warrior to be sure, but he's prideful and arrogant and is like commits crimes against the gods. Something it says here, so it mentions how Athene was angry that Ajax was still alive. This is, if I remember correctly, it's largely due to the fact that he had sexually assaulted, can I say that on Twitch, several priestesses in the sacking of Troy. Now, per rules of conquest, he had his right to any claim of woman he wanted. So as fucked up as it is, he could do it. However, to sexually assault priestesses, and in a temple no less, that was a vile crime. That was not only terrible to the women themselves, but it was also blasphemous to both their profession and to the gods above. So it's no wonder that Athene wants him dead. And in the end, despite all his failings, he still cannot break his own hubris, his own pride in himself, and he's killed by Poseidon. Yeah, he's killed by Poseidon and drowns. And an unfitting end for a hero, to be sure. It is a ignoble death given to an ignoble man. So, whilst he is technically treated as a hero, and again, he's a strong warrior, he's stout and strong and fights a lot, he's not what you're meant to aspire to. Indeed, there's the deliberate contrast here with Ajax the Greater and Ajax the Lesser is meant to show, hey, Ajax the Greater is a real man. He's a true hero through and through. Be like him. Don't be like the lesser Ajax. But yeah. So yeah, and then we get onto the part with the suitors and such, which I don't think we need to say much here. There's a lot of stuff here, obviously showing all their insecurities,
they're all cowardly men, and they're all called out. Oh, you must have all heard stories of Odysseus growing up as children, and now you're here trying to end his family. Like, how horrible of you all. There's a lot of nice stuff here with Penelope. I think it's the first real characterization we have of her. The first book, she only appears briefly. I think I've mentioned it before, but what I really like about Penelope is that she's kind of always shown to be a really good fit as Odysseus' partner, right? Well, it's kind of cute here. I think it's kind of endearing how she's like so like protective of her son, which makes sense considering she's lost her husband, right? But like, there's a lot of stuff here which shows her she's really just a perfect fit for Odysseus as her husband, right? Where she's also blessed by Athene. She's also given all these nice things by Athene. Athene really is endeared to her, to the entire family really at this point. And in an interesting way, Odysseus and Penelope both kind of, I guess, embody different aspects of Athene's worship. So Athene is probably most well known as the goddess of wisdom, right? She's also a war goddess, specifically like strategic warfare, and also a goddess of handicrafts and craftsmanship, right? So, whilst war is definitely more of a masculine thing, her handicrafts would have been a feminine thing, looms and spindles and making charms and such. That would all have been in Athene's domain, essentially, right? And it's pretty interesting that it's constantly talking, she's very good at the loom and everything like that, and Penelope's very good at the loom, and she comes up with this cunning trick to basically make this shroud, but never actually complete it, to make sure that she'll never get married to the suitors. And she's using both these like domains of Athene, whatever you want to call her, to do this trick. And then you have Odysseus, who's doing all these cool plans and military tricks, and he's great in battle. And it's like, he's using the war and wisdom. Penelope is using handicrafts and wisdom. They're really emblematic of a lot of parts of Athena's main points of worship, and I think that's a very interesting thing. They really are just like made for each other, which I think is rather endearing. Yeah, I think we're going to leave it there for today. So Book 5, Calypso, is where we will be next week. We'll be back next Friday. I'll probably start reading around 5 o'clock-ish, I want to say. Around 5 o'clock. I'll be reading 5 o'clock No, I'll start reading around 7 o'clock UK time. So between 7 o'clock and 7:30 UK time. I'll probably start streaming again, like I did say, a bit before then. But yeah, that's going to be everything for today, folks. Thank you so much for coming by Pickle. Again, thank you so much for the subscription. Very generous of you. Thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, I think we're going to leave it there today. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your evening, rest of your afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Keep well, stay safe, eat lots of good food, and I'll see you in a bit. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.